What's going on, guys? Thank you for being here. Another Saturday. Josh, Rob, and we got a special guest today, my man Frank.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. It's been a while since
you look good. I know. How long has it been?
I think since we did your one act
play.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that? That's like a year at least. Was it like November of last year or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think around there, right?
Coming up on a year. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. I know. So yeah, you look good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Been good.
So
Family's good.
Everybody's well. Everybody's well. Keeping
right.
busy with the COVID, but.
Now, how has it changed anything for you, like your routine or your daily life? Or?
A little bit, yeah, because prior to COVID, my son, he's at school now, but he goes up to Maritime. My daughter is in school. My wife is to work, so I had the whole house to myself.
Oh,
now
nice.
Everybody's home.
Right.
My wife's working from home. My daughter, with school's back, she goes 2 days a week, and then my son is back to school now. So
okay, all right. So
it's a lot of people around all of a sudden.
Well, obviously, you're trying to do the acting thing. So it's that makes it harder, I would assume. Trying to get job does it. I mean, everything's so digital now. You can do stuff online.
Everything's digital as far as
there are a lot of Zoom auditions.
A lot of
now?
Zoom auditions
okay.
Or self-tape auditions. You send them in, and then if they want you to do a callback, they'll ask you for another tape, and then they'll get to a point where it'll be a Zoom audition.
So is that more? Maybe in some ways it's easier. I don't know.
Well, the self-tape. What's nice about that is you can do as many takes as you want until you feel you got it right.
Right.
That's not recommended that you do that because your performance is probably not going to vary that much from tape to tape.
Right.
So I find sometimes I end up with 6 or 8, videos, and they're all just slightly different. So it makes it harder to choose because now it's like, well, I like what I did in this video. Yeah. I like this. If I can put these two together.
Exactly.
You play mind games with yourself.
You do. Yes.
Which one? Do I want to use this one? Do I send them this one?
Yeah, because you're never fully satisfied. You make 80%. It's like, that one line here, I like the way I hit it.
Yeah.
But that one, and then.
So I will probably tend to do maybe 3 takes and pick the best one. And if I'm unsure, then I hand it to one of the kids and say, "Which one do you think is?" And I go by them.
There you go. So now, do you have an agent or anything, or
I have a commercial agent, but I don't have a regular agent or a manager.
So what? So what are you just going on backstage, essentially, and all that kind of stuff?
Backstage, Actors Access, and casting networks. I use those 3.
And so, what kind of jobs are you looking for?
Well, the ones I've been booking have been independent films, short films. This one I just recently booked. It was a last-minute call, a rush call, and I managed to book it off of my reel, so I didn't even have to audition. They just took me off my reel.
There you go.
I don't know if they took it from my reel or because I answered so quickly that they needed it and that I had a flexible schedule. But either way, I'm in.
Whatever works.
Listen, I'm in, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a nice little role. It's a little supporting role. I play the neighborhood icy guy walking around my ice cart, but I have speaking lines, and I'm throughout the movie, so it's not like just one scene. So
all right, where's it filming?
Up in Harlem, actually.
Okay.
Out in the streets, 131st and I don't remember. 5th Avenue. That's it.
Okay. And so now, how's it working with all the mask stuff? Are they like stringent? Are they kind of?
No, I mean,
like you got to keep it on until you go on, or
it's because it's an independent. They don't have the same rules
right,
as SAG has. They don't have to have
regulators
a
COVID
technician. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
They don't have to. You don't have to have that. So you kind of leave it up to what they've been doing on these for me, or at least with me. You kind of leaving it up to yourselves.
Right.
Social distance. If I wear the mask if you tell me to. I'm not a big mask guy. I'm not going to get into all sorts of.
We can go down that road a little bit, but we'll get there. So I don't know if you want to speak about yourself a little bit more in general. Obviously.
Well, as you know, I'm a retired NYPD sergeant. I retired about 9 years ago. I'm a stand-up comedian. I started doing stand-up about 5 years ago. And then I got about a year after that, I got into acting. So, so about the last 4 years, I've been acting. I'm also a real estate agent. And if you're thinking about buying, it's a good time to buy because the interest rates are so low.
Right.
It's just houses are flying off the market. It's hard to get a house.
You're seeing that too in Nassau and Suffolk?
Yeah, absolutely. Bidding wars, again, you're starting to see bidding wars. It's crazy out there.
Yeah.
People are looking to get off Long Island. People are looking to get out of the city onto Long Island.
Right. I would assume that's probably fairly big because, I mean, you hear reports, a lot of people are leaving Manhattan. fleeing.
Yeah,
the ones who can afford to do it, probably mostly.
Yeah, but, the Upper East Side is in.
I mean, you're going to Harlem. I mean, for the acting thing, I've been there a few times recently. Right. I go hang out with my friends, every weekend or so. It's changed a fair amount. I mean, it was always kind of had that grimy feel. You always, you saw the homeless, especially in recent years under De Blasio. I don't want to say his name, but absolute scumbag. But it's bad now. Like they're on every corner. It smells horrible. It's depressing.
I mean, where we were, believe it or not, it was actually a little diverse. You had different.
You had your crackheads and your cokeheads.
you had the typical neighborhood residents. You had Spanish people. You had some white people live in the area. So it was a little bit diverse.
Right. Well, Harlem's changed. Sorry.
Was that your jurisdiction when you were NYPD? Oh.
No. I started NYPD. I was in the 7-7 precinct, which is kind of the Crown Heights section.
Okay.
And then
I think I spent the night
in the 7-7.
No.
And then I got promoted to sergeant. I went down in Chinatown to the 5th precinct, and then over to Midtown South. And retired from there.
Gotcha. How many years were you in on the force?
Just 20.
Okay.
Just 20.
Just 20.
Just 20.
Yeah.
Just.
Well, my partner, my first partner, Mark, he's still on. He's coming on 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what you're waiting for.
Well, I heard on a lot of the CBAs, like I know with the LIRR, it's like after a while, once you stay on past X amount of years, don't you start like losing money in your retirement and your pension?
The sweet spot on the NYPD, I think, is 27 is where it starts to cost you money.
I think they try to encourage people to kind of get out after a certain point because they're probably paying them higher rates or whatever they need to,
I would assume now they're doing whatever they can to keep them, though.
Now that they're slowing it. From what I've heard, I don't know for a fact, like people putting in their papers, it's on a backlog. They can't keep you from retiring, but they can take their time processing your paperwork. And if they got a stack of papers, it's going to take.
Sorry, Mike, I can't seem to find your name here anywhere. Jeez, come back in a year or two.
Right.
That's crazy. But so I mean, if you want to speak a little bit about that, obviously there's so much craziness going on with. Where I don't even know where to start. Defund the police, all that.
The best way to say all those that were screaming for defund the police. Remember what happened on 9/11.
Well, yeah, we can get into that. I mean, I think unfortunately, it's like a terrible refresher in a sense, if you know what I'm saying. Like, obviously, the slow, never forget.
Right.
But people forget.
People are starting
19
to forget.
years, yeah, and I know. I mean, I can still remember. I was about 10 or 11. But I still remember being in 3rd grade in the classroom and, all the panic and the chaos. And, I still remember it vividly. And then going home and watching it. And it's still – I can't watch it. Like, I can't watch those planes fly. It's the most heartbreaking thing I've ever watched in my life. So I can only imagine, especially, someone how you would feel and, other cops. And now I'm assuming – did you lose anybody or did you know anybody?
Yeah. I've not directly on that day or not just one of my sergeants, Rodney Gillis, he was killed that day. And 2 of my friends, firefighter Brian Sweeney and firefighter Ronnie Geese, were killed that day as well. But the others that I've lost have been 9/11 related illness.
Okay, so afterwards, okay, yeah.
My brother's in the FDNY, and he says that basically every year or so, there's somebody that he works with where they pass away, where they have these conditions where it's like they'll have a postnasal drip that just never goes away, and just these crazy things, these small coughs that just never go away. And
the GERD, guys that I get that with if I eat greasy food, I'm constantly clearing my throat.
I think I have that right now, but it's just from being a pussy. So. No, so one thing I did I don't know if you're going to know the answer, but obviously on that day we know that a lot of the firefighter was like 324 or something like that.
343.
304. Okay, they now they did their job. They did what they had to do. Told to go in and try to save people, and that's that. I'm just curious about did they more the logistics of it. I don't know if you know. Do you know what I mean? Like. What, was there any, obviously they didn't have a lot of time in terms, did anybody know the buildings might come down? You wouldn't?
That I wouldn't know. I mean, there's a lot of conspiracy theories.
No, I don't touch.
I'm not, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know. Right. And I actually wasn't there that day. I was on vacation. It was my
now you were on the force?
Okay. Yeah, I was on the force. And I just started vacation and for some reason, I remember getting there. They mobilized us the next day.
Okay.
It's the day I remember going in, but I don't know. It could have been that day.
You vacation? You just had the day off, or they called you back?
I was supposed to be on week's vacation, and when they mobilize you, the only time you don't have to go in on a mobilization is if you're on vacation or if you're out sick. But of course, I wasn't gonna.
Right. Yeah. It seems like the exception.
Well, they're like, listen, you don't have to come in. I'm like, no, I'm on my way.
Oh, they said. Oh, I would have thought they would have still been like, this is the one time.
They said you don't have to, but I said, no, I'm on my way. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah.
I would imagine there's probably a lot of guys that would, want to get into that situation, which is a pretty crazy mindset, looking at it now. But I mean,
yeah.
Well, I just want to. Your brother's on the FDNY. I don't think you mentioned that. Have you?
Yeah, he's in the dispatch unit. So every time they have like New Year's Eve, and when they had the All-Star game at Citi Field and Yankee Stadium, how they set up like a mobile command center. He's in on that. So. Yeah, he's been in a bunch of different parts of the city, from Queens to the Bronx to when you were talking about Harlem before. He was in the part that I guess was right on the border of what's Clintonified and gentrified, but and what's not. So
okay. No, wait. I'm sorry. Where were you again in stationed on when you were on?
I started in the Bed-Stuy Crown Heights section.
Oh, okay.
Went to Chinatown, then Midtown South.
Oh, okay. So you got all the sweet spots.
Yes.
And now, again, so you were on the force from what years?
From 91 to 2011.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, my cousin actually just became a cop about 6 months or so. And I don't want to put words in his mouth or anything, but it's tough to say the least.
That's a real culture shock for with what's going on now. For someone, I don't know where he's from or what his life is like, but you get someone that never dealt with this kind of stuff, and now you're sticking him in the middle of riots.
He's always been like a kind of a tougher, he grew up in Amityville. He's always been into, guns and, all that sort of stuff. So his mindset is perfect for it. But what he did for about maybe a year or two before was he was an EMT driver. So he got used to at least tough seeing people.
Right.
In stressful situations, but this is different. Like, you weren't getting attacked,
right?
You were trying to save somebody, and people understood you were trying to save. So you were there to help. You were a first responder. Now it's maybe you're trying to help, but now you're getting attacked by a mob who've decided, well, you're no good because all that you represent. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much TV and stuff you watch or how much.
I watch a lot of TV, but not so much. I don't watch the news. It's just too negative. I try to keep a positive mindset, so I don't watch the news. And besides, everything's so reliable on Facebook, so I get all my news.
Oh yeah, Facebook's the holy grail of reliable.
That's all the best bets.
You see some things on Facebook, and it's like, how can someone actually go for this? But I guess people really do. Or
I mean, I don't understand. And listen, I'm not going to lie and say I haven't gotten suckered into something. You see something, you don't read it, you react to it.
Yeah.
But people have to start doing more research. I mean, and I didn't do enough research, but from what I'm saying is when Trump supposedly called the soldiers suckers and losers.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything where he said that. And I wouldn't think that he would, because he's so pro-military and police. Now, if he said it and I'm not aware of it, then I'm the fool. But
I mean, look, it's one of those. I don't even get too much into those kind of stories, because I'm like, well, what's the benefit here? What am I doing? He supposedly insulted veterans, so if they're upset, I'll let them get upset. You know what I mean? Number one, I'm not going to be, that old adage, I'm not going to be more upset than the victim, the person who was.
Yeah. You can't be.
Right.
You can never be more upset than the victim. And that's what the problem is, exactly. Everybody wants to be more offended than the victim.
Right.
It's a big thing with go viral. It's like a mentality where people very much want to go viral in terms of things.
Oh, sure.
But, and I mean, it's like a headline jump. People, they want to get their headlines out there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even understand the context totally that he apparently called them. So, but anyway,
it doesn't make. But so my point was, if he said it, you got to do the research to find out that he said it. You can't. People have to stop. And no matter what news outlet you watch, people have to stop taking the news at face value, because it's not really news anymore. I mean, I'm obviously much older than you guys. When we watched the news when we were kids, you were getting the news and the facts that they had to report.
Right.
Now everything you watch is it's all opinion.
Yeah.
And you watch it from Hannity to Maddow to you can name them all. Well, I can't, because I can only think of those two names.
Yeah.
But
those are good.
those I'm not saying there isn't fact included in their opinions, but they're all just opinions. Nobody delivers the news, and in the rush to get all the facts out, people they don't check their own sources. They don't check. They just want to be the first one to report it, and then they'll backtrack.
Right. Well, that's the irony of it all. It's like they know that, just wait for the story to develop a little bit longer.
You can put out, listen, we have a breaking news story, such and such happened.
Right.
More details as we get them.
Well, ironically, I had read that with 9/11, that was the first time that red news Chiron, whatever it's called, the Chiron that goes on the bottom of the screen that tells you, breaking news, such and such and such. Yeah. 9/11 was when that first really came out. Now, basically, anytime you turn on TV, I don't care what channel you turn on in terms of news, it's always on there.
Right.
Yeah.
There's always breaking news.
Well, I think it was actually Roger Ailes at Fox that, after 9/11, he started putting out the ribbon thing so people could have real live updates.
Yeah.
And then it sort of just became the norm. I watched that. I don't know if you saw that, The Loudest Voice. Have you heard of that? It was Russell Crowe played like Roger Ailes, and just a little mini-series thing. It was really freaking good. He kills it as Roger Ailes.
Russell Crowe, he's one of those people. He can play any role. He'll gain 50 pounds. He'll lose 50 pounds.
Yeah, that's what he does. But he got and I heard I was doing a little, reading about it a little bit. I mean, he's just fantastic. Obviously, Roger Ailes has his downsides, and the guy built Fox News. But he was a bit of a creep. He would like make the girls twirl in the office, and then start off. He's like, well, I got to see how you look for the camera. And then, let me feel your tits because I got to see how they feel.
Right. Because I got to see how they feel for the camera.
Right. I feel for the camera. Everything was, I got to see, you got to feel for the camera.
The camera adds 10 pounds, so we got to make sure.
Yeah. But no, it was brilliant. And then he went to some, I don't know if it was a liberal thing or just like a media thing, and they shit on Roger Ailes before they brought out Russell Crowe, and he plays the despicable, disgusting, and he just apparently yelled at the guy, screamed at him, and stormed off, which I like about a Russell Crowe, or a Christian Bale, they can understand separating the character from, they're not the actual person. They're playing a character. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. They have negative, It's like anything else. But and I heard that movie Mulan that came out.
I saw that it came out. I didn't watch it.
Apparently, they completely altered it to appease the Chinese. So they got rid of the dragon in the original, played by Eddie Murphy. I didn't know his name, but apparently they took out a kiss between the boy and the girl because that would offend the Chinese somehow. I don't know, because she's dressed as a man. That's the whole purpose of the movie. And they toned that down not to offend the Chinese. So they basically got rid of Mulan and just put a bunch of Asian people in it, and they're like, yeah, we're good to go. So I don't know.
Going for the Chinese market.
That's the world we live in. And you saw there's a report now, the Oscars starting in 2024.
Okay.
You didn't see that? You know that? Yeah. Can you pull up that article, Rob? All right. I'll tell you anyway. But there's a million articles. Yeah, starting in 2024. In order to be even considered for Best Picture, first you have to meet the diversity requirements. So you have to have, I don't know if there's an actual quota or something like that, but the Academy will decide. This is for Best Picture. This is for the biggest award. You have to, quote unquote, prove your diversity and inclusion on and off the screen in your movie, whatever the hell that means. Here, what do they got here? Is this about it, or is this just like a general thing?
This is Oscars.org.
Just pull up an art. Just pull up. What does that say? Is this in regards to?
At least one of the lead actors or significant supporting actors is from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group, and they list them here.
They list them there.
So,
at least 30% of all actors in secondary and or minor roles, from women, gays, people with cognitive or physical disabilities who are deaf or hard of hearing. My Lord. I mean, look, I'm not making any Oscars up for Best Picture. These people are doing it to themselves. Right. I don't know. Doesn't somebody say something? Isn't this just too much?
I don't get it.
And on and off the screen. What does that mean?
So I guess that means your cast and crew has to meet the diversity.
I guess.
You know that I'm about as liberal as it gets.
Isn't this too much? Isn't this just too much?
This is where
overall
I'm like,
crew
what
composition,
the hell?
At least 30% has to be women or gays or people with. I mean, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. You know, so you can't
so
hire
this
the
is
best.
it's another form of affirmative action.
Basically.
And you know the
but
fight,
it's next level.
It's crazy.
So what? You're literally never gonna be able to have a movie with just Caucasians in it.
You can never have that anymore.
You can't have that anymore.
But
so, what movie?
Well, I'm curious. What about the movies like Crazy Rich Asians or like Black Panther, where it's like just exclusively one?
It doesn't say anything. I don't think it said
like,
anything about white people having to be included.
I think it's pretty. They're not the underrepresented.
No, I'm serious. I don't think it's.
No, seriously. They weren't there.
It looks like you could have. Well, I don't even think you could have an all-black movie then. You'd have to put, unless you had a gay.
No, but that's what I'm asking.
No,
like
a gay black crippled person.
Wait,
you've covered all.
That's true. Can you get one who just covers everything?
Right.
Like what's that movie? My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where it's like you have to marry a Japanese, Jewish, Asian, Irish guy.
Yeah.
Like
you cover all your bases. It doesn't say anything about trans people there. Oh, that's offensive. Oh no, they're in the Q plus.
Yeah,
or
they're
something?
in the.
Oh Jesus, I didn't even know. Dave Chappelle makes the best jokes about that. The alphabet people.
The alphabet.
He
alphabet
apparently
people.
had another special that came out, but I haven't gotten to watch it yet.
But he makes the best joke about the L's are the gays are driving, the G's are driving the car. The L's are in the passenger seat, the lesbians, and then they don't like the T's who are in the back because they're slowing them down where they're trying to get to go. They're like, guys, you're making this ride take a lot longer. And then he got the B's who are next to the T's, and nobody likes the B's. It's hilarious. You got to watch that.
I'll have to check that.
The alphabet people. Yeah. No, Chappelle is funny. He got a lot of criticism for that. That's another thing that you do comedy.
Comedy.
I had John Ziegler on.
Oh yeah, John's a good guy.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the craziness trying to. At Governors, they put up you got to do it in front of a screen.
Yeah, it's like being in a fish tank.
Yeah,
I was filming a movie there recently, and they had all of that. I said, this is like performing in a fish tank.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's all about interacting with the people and everything like that. And then
I mean, you have room to but. You're talking to somebody.
It's like being in a shower curtain or something, right? You know, it's like singing in the shower.
Talking to the bank teller, telling jokes.
Yeah, give me your money. Yeah.
Did you see what happened with the Kansas City Chiefs head coach on
they got booed.
Thursday night? No,
Yeah.
I was asking about the coach in general. He had one of those like headgear like masks that like covered his entire head. Literally
really?
by like the middle of the first quarter, he needed windshield wipers because he couldn't see anything out of it.
That's just that's too. I draw the line at I won't even wear a mask most of the time. Like
I'll only wear the mask if I'm going into a place and it's mandated.
Yeah.
If I go into the store.
Yeah, like I pick and choose. Like the ones I respect, I'll wear a mask. You know, if I know the people. Other ones, I'm just like, someone do something about it. You know what I mean?
If I'm around people, especially as a real estate agent,
Sure.
if they want me to wear the mask, I'll wear it.
And if they're older, I'll take that into consideration.
I've only had past few months only one
complaint.
Not complaint. No, just they asked me to wear the mask.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's all.
I've had a few complaints.
So I've had
only
complaints.
from women though. Like men won't say anything. I don't think we
Have
care
you
as
gotten
much,
anything in the gym yet, or?
Well, yeah, they keep yelling at me because I keep pulling it down. I'm like, dude, I'm doing squats. I can't breathe. The mask is going into my mouth. I'm choking on the fibers.
That's why I haven't gone back to the gym. I'm not going to be able to run on a treadmill or hit the heavy bag with a mask on.
It looks insane. It looks crazy. I'm like, how are you doing that?
Ironically, I only go to the gym for leg day, and when I've been going Saturday mornings at like 6 a.m. So like, there's no one in there.
Saturday
Well, you know what? That's the only time I'll wear a mask. I don't have a problem with it, but when you're working out, that's one time that you literally you can't wear it.
Right.
You get sweaty.
I do a lot of cardio. I don't really lift that much. So there's no way I'm going to be able to do my cardio with a mask.
Once you get all sweaty, I mean, it's going to stick to you and all that. But
you're better off walking around outside.
At like 6 a.m., I can get away with taking it off. doing my shit when there's no one there, no one around.
And I know people are going to look at this and say that I'm doing cardio, and they're going to be like, "Well, why don't you step it up, fat ass?"
I thought you were thinking to look at this and think I'm in perfect shape.
No,
but that's what there's this girl at the gym. All these girls actually, they're the ones that are still in incredible shape. Like a lot of the guys are like smaller, trying. All the girls have like their asses didn't change at all.
They've been home doing yoga.
I'm asking myself, like, what have you been doing for the past 4 months? I don't know,
yoga, running,
probably
I guess.
just body weight squats too.
I guess, but like they look even better. They're even like better physical shape. I'm like, wow, if only I don't
know, man.
I don't know. I basically did nothing in terms of working out for the 3-4 months.
I was running and doing push-ups and sit-ups.
Yeah, I stepped it up maybe 2 months ago. I wasn't really doing much, and then I stepped it up.
Yeah. So what is stepping up into?
Well, I actually I was doing. I studied martial arts, but the workouts we were doing, they were more technique, so there wasn't a lot of getting the heart rate up. Occasionally we would, but so I stepped it up, and that's when I started. We'd go to the park, up to the school. Now we can't go because the school's open.
Yeah.
So I would do sprints. Let me rephrase that. I wasn't doing all-out sprints. I was doing it by yardage. So I'd do 50 yards and run back. So that's 100. You know, and then I would bring a kettlebell or a mace. And then, so after running, I would, pick up the mace and say do squats or do overhead presses, and then run again.
Okay. Some more functional stuff like that.
You can call it the high intensity
the
interval.
HIIT, yeah.
You could. It's something I learned. I used to train at a gym called TFW, Training for Warriors.
Okay.
It was created by Martin Rooney, who trains fighters. And now the gym was not a fighting gym, but it was. They implemented the methods that they used to train the fighters. So what I'm doing was called a hurricane. You run, you do 3 exercises, you run, you do 3 exercises, you run, you do 3 exercises. That's 1 round.
Okay.
And you do that for 3 rounds.
Okay. So a circuit.
But you're supposed to sprint. Listen, I'm 53.
No.
There's
Dude, I
nothing,
can't even sprint.
There's nothing I need to sprint. There's nothing I need to sprint for anymore. I didn't even sprint when I was a cop, man. I would chase you like maybe the end of the block. If you got away, we'd look for you tomorrow.
That's funny you should bring that up. Is that true? Is that like, how would that work?
No,
I always wondered how, not that you're, but out of shape cops in general,
Yeah,
there was a video of this cop trying to wrestle this guy, this black guy. This older white cop was trying to wrestle this younger black guy and started to get his butt kicked. And then a bunch of like black guys beat the crap out of the black guy and wrestled and held him.
Right.
But I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, unfortunately, I can't speak for anything outside of the NYPD, but they don't really train us in self-defense.
You would think that would be something they would think about nowadays, because there's so much scrutiny on like the chokeholds.
Now they would probably be best to implement a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, some Wing Chun.
Sure.
Take them down, put them in an arm bar or something.
JKD, Jeet Kune Do, rapid,
Something is what you're saying.
There's a technique called the RAT system, rapid assault tactics, so that you move real quick, you get them under control without throwing a lot of punches and
Well, they should teach you to punch in the stomach. Don't leave any marks in the face. And the body hurts more. You get hit in the body.
Oh, absolutely.
It hurts a lot more than getting hit in the face.
That's most fights, as you know, in the professional world. I can't speak again much for MMA because I don't do it. But like boxing, it's the body shots that win the fight.
Oh yeah, trust me.
Headshots look great and you go for the knockout, but it's the body shots that knock the
Right. Oh, they knock the piss out of you.
Well, if you ever watch those old Sonny Liston fights, they always say the announcers, you kill the body, the head's gonna follow. Because that's what he used to do, just rip right at your body and hit you.
Well, that's what. Do you watch MMA?
No, not really.
Okay.
It's
I don't watch. I like the big fights though. Like, and you Stipe Miocic or Daniel Cormier. Oh,
I don't.
right.
I know Cormier's name.
Yeah, okay.
I know obviously McGregor. Everybody knows him.
I'm sorry you brought that up.
I've watched a few fights. It's not my thing. Although I'm watching a great show on Netflix called Kingdom, and they're an MMA family.
I think
it's a great show.
It's about the not the Gracies, is it?
No, it's not about. They're just a family. The father was a fighter. Now he's retired, and his 2 boys are fighting.
Okay.
And it's a good show. I recommend it.
Kingdom.
Because it's not really about the MMA.
It's a documentary more.
No.
Oh.
It's just a.
Okay.
It's a.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of it. Or I feel like I've seen it. Okay.
It's called Kingdom. It's a good show.
Okay.
Nice.
Wait, you said McGregor got arrested again?
Yeah.
Or he got arrested or just a
Let's see here.
That guy's always doing something. Well, that's what I mean. Look, he's got what $100 million, and he's a fighter. He's got that mentality. You got to make some mistakes. You know what I mean?
Conor McGregor reportedly arrested for alleged sexual assault in France, denies allegations.
But again, now is this new or is this something that may have happened? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Sure.
And not to say that if it happened 20 years ago and he did it, I'm not saying it's not right. What I'm saying is, people come out.
You don't have to cover all your bases on here. Don't worry. We know exactly what you're saying. But yeah, well, that's part of the world. Even just saying that, like you find yourself having to always be politically correct. You always got to preface everything with, I don't mean everybody.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or at the end of a sentence, like, oh, I'm not talking about you. I don't know. I don't even bother with that.
Okay.
So yeah, people know what you mean. People know what you're saying. They get the gist of it.
People always hear what they want to hear anyway.
Sure.
So you know what I mean, and I could say something else, and somebody will interpret it some other way.
Trump's the best example. I mean, even if he prefaces something, explain, they'll pick out what they want to, and so.
Right. Well, again, talking about Trump, that's what they did with that video where they said he was mocking the handicapped person. If you watch that whole video, is
this the one from the when he was running for election?
Yeah, and they said, if you watch that whole video,
I feel like he was mocking the guy.
He wasn't.
I never seen the whole video. So wait, explain what.
You watch the whole video.
Okay, yeah, but
you watch the whole video and you'll see that where he says the thing about the handicapped person and does that. There are two different sections of the video. They just collapsed it.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. So,
but I don't know. You can't get into all that nonsense.
The same thing happens, though. I mean, it's part of framing the narrative. These news stations, they know who their audience is. They know who's watching at this point, and they know what they're going to give them in terms of it's mostly opinion.
Know your audience. It's like in comedy. Know your audience.
Yeah. Oh, sure, but it still doesn't make it right. I mean, at some point, it's got to reverse itself, and the question is, how do you... I feel like it is maybe slowly... I feel like it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Well, it always does, but
I feel like there's a bit of a wake-up. There's a bit
what it is? People have to start... and I don't know how you would do it. They have to start demanding truth and transparency in news reporting.
Right, because that's the medium through which we get everything, and I feel like they're at the crux of it.
Listen, they tell us anything they want to tell us.
Right.
We have to accept it as truth,
as gospel.
Well, maybe not. I mean, more so like with the COVID. But like with the COVID, we don't know.
Right.
They don't know, and we don't even. Or maybe they do know. They being those in charge, but they're only giving us what they want us to know.
Yeah.
And they're pulling down the videos. You see that? Like when there's a video. Like why? Like they're fact checking now. And
again, fact checking. So Snopes, what's it called? Snopes is supposed to be the fact checking. There used to be factchecker.com and Snopes.
I remember Snopes when I was in college.
I'm older than you guys, so I'm still in the...
I remember Snopes was some type of fact checker. I thought they were like literary based, but I have no idea.
Who declared them that they are... So now they could write whatever they want, and people can say, well, it's in Snopes, and it's been fact checkers.
Right.
So,
And that's a problem. That's always going to be sort of a problem, And I remember when Mark Zuckerberg said not too long ago, right, that when Twitter started fact checking, he said they don't want to be the arbiters of truth, essentially. And then he does a complete 180.
He does a 180, and now he's taking people's posts down, and
but it's like, I mean, that's always going to be a problem. We're not going to do it's like going to the doctor. You're going to essentially take the guy's word. You're going to feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's also why we go to, depending on what it is, you get a second opinion. Well, but, you can start.
And you can do that with news. You can go to Fox and you can go to, which I try to do somewhat. I mean, I hate anything outside of Fox because it's just unbearable because it's like they're always talking down to you or they're always, anyway. But I do try to do that just to still see if, does it coincide at all? Or is there any, you know what I'm saying? Just not even to have all viewpoints. I don't care enough about that.
No, but you're right.
Just
if
to
they're
see where we
reporting
are.
the story and it's at least, no matter if their outcomes, if the Fox outcome opinion is different than, but the story is parallel and they get to the end where they're then you say, okay, they reported the story equally and then they form their own opinion.
Right. If they come to their own conclusion.
That just doesn't happen anymore.
I try to see if the facts on and nothing. Like they're, again, you'll see the same video of a riot or something like that. And, that's a little easier because you're seeing it visually with your own eyes. You can discern no matter what CNN's saying about what's going on. Like, it's not peaceful
if
because
they're showing you the whole
thing.
If they're showing you the whole video.
Well, that's part of it too. I mean, there's so many.
Hey, look what happened to CNN, right? I'm sorry, Jason, you want to say something. That kid sued them, right?
Sandman.
Nick Sandman, yeah. Great name. Enter the Sandman.
He's, something he wound up settling with everybody out of court. He's not allowed to say what he got, so...
Well, some a-hole from CNN apparently did out him or something like that. He said, he only got, the bare minimum settlement of, $25,000 or something like that. I'm like, I feel like he got a lot more than that.
I think he got a lot more than that.
But, and now he's working for Mitch McConnell in Kentucky on his campaign over there. No, he was did you watch the RNC?
No, I did not. Not because I didn't want to. I was...
I don't want to hear excuses, Frank. I don't want to hear excuses. You had 4 nights, Frank. You had 4 chances. But, I wanted to go back. We talked about the comedy a little bit, but John was on here saying, trying to get back into governors. There was a rally, They had one not too long ago. Like, they opened it, and then they shut it down again or something like that.
Yeah, they were open.
I don't know exactly.
I don't know exactly.
Because like at Governors in Levittown, they opened a patio, the outside.
Yeah, they had the outdoor patio,
Right.
and they were doing outdoor comedy, which was allowed. And then all of a sudden, Cuomo changed things where
Right.
you couldn't have ticketed sales, and then
That's what
it
John
was
was
okay
saying,
to have a band on, but you can't have comedy. So I don't know.
Right, John was saying something about dining music. You can only have or you can't have dancing music.
Yeah,
something
they don't
that
want
wants
people
to
getting
get
up
and
and-
Right,
dance.
because people need to be.
So what? Only elevator music is
Well,
what does that even mean? Who
acoustic,
again? That's one of those things. Who decides that? Who decides what's dancing music? Are you going to sift
Right.
through every song?
Right.
You know.
You know,
I
and
don't
it's one of those things where it's like it's ridiculous, but then he points out it's like we've been under 1% infection for over a month, so it's like if it's effective,
Yeah, because everybody already died in the first month in New York. We're going. This
You
is
know,
my
and
point.
you know, everyone talks about that too. The 1% infection. You know, it's the death rate. You know, like people are still panicking about the masks and stuff like that. Let's start looking at what the new cases are per day.
yeah, I mean,
you know, versus the amount of deaths.
Well, that's been a thing. New York was passed a while ago by Florida, California, and Texas. Now they each have, I think it was more than 100,000 cases more than New York, but New York still leads them by like 20,000 deaths apiece because so many people in the retirement homes died right at the very
Cuomo.
beginning.
Right. Again.
No, good.
No, it's just, you know.
It's been rehashed. So, it's just.
You're just hashing it to death.
But those people are dead now. There's no, you know.
And there's a lot of, from what I was told, I don't have any, you know, fact to have seen it, but a lot of the deaths that people died from, they were classified as COVID when they weren't.
That's been something that's been going around. That like they get a heart attack and they had coronavirus. You know, they marked it as coronavirus. It's just it's sad.
Again, that's one of those things though where it's like it depends on what article you read and whose expert opinion they're throwing out there.
But that goes to the heart of the problem. There shouldn't be all this misinformation the way that there is.
Yeah.
There should be but they hate each other. Democrats hate Republicans. Republicans hate them.
And that's exactly it.
Do you see the picture of Pence and Biden like
elbowing?
Oh, well, that's great. A great moment for 1 second, and then they'll go back to.
But that's you know what? It's like people want to
suffer. We're the ones who suffer.
But it's like you know, there's so many people that they want to hear what they want to hear. They want to see what they want to see. Like the shooting where the guy got shot in the back.
Blake.
Oh, Blake. Yeah.
I read two completely different articles where one person said he was going to his car to get a knife and that he was going to kill the cop. And then another person said, oh, no, he was going back to his car to go check on his kids, he said. So it's like, depending on what you want to hear, you know, that's the article you're going to click on.
But that's a problem. I mean, and what happened? LeBron James and the whole NBA came out and like they're actually influencing what cops are doing. You know, like they're going to be more hesitant now in terms. They already are.
Listen, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
If I was out there now, I mean,
you still got to protect yourself at the end of the day. You're like, I'll deal with the ramifications
I was going to protect myself and my partner, but I'm not going to be out there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What do you do?
I think that's why so many cops are retiring now because they're just like,
retiring,
you know what? I'm just
they're not going out and prosecuting the crime, like you're saying. They're hanging back.
My wife's a court reporter.
That happens all the time.
My wife's a court reporter. Everybody gets let out.
Yeah, no, it's sad. It's that guy.
She was working a case the other day. It was a gun collar, and they let the guy go.
Well, they're not prosecuting anybody, especially in these bigger cities. I mean, that was the guy that killed the Trump supporter. You saw that in Portland, that crazy guy? You heard about it?
I heard of it. Again,
he had been arrested on gun charges about a couple weeks ago.
Right.
They brought him into court and just let him go.
Right.
So, you know, they know who these people are. They know, and they're not they're getting rid of jails.
And there's no fear of getting arrested.
That's the thing. Like, it's the whole system is kind of premised on don't commit that bad act because there might be ramifications. You know, like the police can only respond usually afterwards. You know,
unfortunately, yeah. I mean, there are times you can be proactive.
So no, obviously, but so that's why like mandatory minimum or just going if the fear of going to jail, like that's a consequence that needs to be there.
But there is no
civilized.
Fear.
That's what I know.
Right, that's what you're saying. Is when you go to court and you were arrested for something, and they let you go, and they say, "All right, come back in a month," and they don't come back, and nobody goes out looking for them.
Right.
You know.
If only I'd known that when I was younger.
They're getting rid of it because that whole Rikers Island, that's all getting turned into. That's another one of Cuomo's brilliant plans.
Oh, what's this?
I believe it's Jay-Z. He was big into the bail reform because he's buying that property. They're going to build luxury condos and whatnot over there. It's a beautiful island, you know, and it's great for what they want to do, but But you see, this is Cuomo. He starts all these construction projects that he has no money for, and this is why the city's the way it is. The state's the way it is.
I always say I'm ashamed you went to my high school.
Which high school did you go to?
I feel like we always had Archbishop Malloy in Queens.
Actually, you know what I found out? What's his name? Geraldo Rivera went to my high school.
Another phony. The guy's name is Jerry Rivers. But
Is it really?
Because it benefited him to change his name under all of this, whatever you want to call it, affirmative action back then.
Okay. He went with Geraldo.
Geraldo Rivera.
I like him, but he's had some. He's a quack. He's a bit of a quack.
Right.
But yeah, that is true. You're right.
Yeah. Just funny things you find out. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. But something else. Well, anyway, that's depressing. But to go back, in terms of honoring them, I think like it's talking about 9/11 is always kind of necessary. You know what I mean? Just again, we're old enough to sort of remember. But I know, the younger generation. I notice kids even. I'm saying that like an old man, but I do notice that kids even 5, 10 years younger have no respect.
They don't teach it in school.
No, and if they do, they almost teach it like it's our fault and so like we brought it on, and we shouldn't have. Then of course the whole war afterwards to get right to that, and we shouldn't have. It's just complete distortion, this warped, freaky mindset of someone's overtly guilty, but somehow because it's usually unfortunately
it goes back to victim blaming.
That's exactly what it goes back to.
It's like saying the guy that rapes a woman. Well, why was she out
at
2 o'clock in the morning? Or why did she wear that miniskirt?
Right.
You're victim blaming, and
And unfortunately, it usually always seems to come down to just color. Because I can remember being in this class years ago, and it was. It talked mainly about Middle Eastern issues, but like they showed like a picture of Osama bin Laden, and everyone was kind of like tense, like, oh, he looks like a guy from the Middle East or something like that. Right. I'm like, that's fucking Osama bin Laden. I'm like, I literally said that's the face of all evil.
Right.
And then like since we had only gotten about halfway through, then I noticed a complete shift in the paradigm. As we went around, they're like, yeah, that's the face of evil. That's a bad guy.
Nobody wanted to be the first one.
Well, one like overtly white liberal girl got up and walked out. Like after I said it, she was just like, oh my God, she was so offended. Right. And then they showed a picture of Hitler, and of course, everybody, oh my God, he's the worst, it's the worst person. There's just such a fear, an overt fear of being called a racist more than anything. Right. I think that's the number one thing people fear, and they will not criticize non-whites for fear that it will just be seen as them being. I'm just convinced of that totally.
So what did we just create? A form of censorship.
Couldn't have said it better myself. What are you looking at me like I'm crazy? No, do you agree?
No, I
do you feel like people that's the number one fear is being called a
I get
racist?
that entirely because it's all it takes is someone to have a go viral moment, and then all of a sudden you get labeled as a racist when you probably aren't. Right. But it's just all it takes is one moment.
What about all these stories? Like I want to find it. What happened?
Good. Hey, what'd you do? Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yeah. Sorry, did I turn it off?
No, yeah, it's all right. You're good.
I turned off my own mic. Even I don't want to hear me. But like this woman that called supposedly in Central Park that called the cops on some black guy.
On the black guy bird watching.
How does anybody even know that?
She recorded it. That's why.
Oh, all right.
She literally recorded it.
No,
on
he
video.
recorded it. He recorded.
No, he recorded. Okay.
Yeah, but like she literally says on the video, she's like, "I'm gonna call the cops and I'm gonna tell them that there's a black man threatening my life," and like she plays it up like, "Oh my God, I'm so scared."
Yeah. No.
And someone like that should be called a racist.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, again, what was the scenario? She had her dog off a leash, I think, and so he comes up. And I don't. Again, I'm not going to speak to his character, but I think, he asked her, "Can you put the dog on a leash?" I don't know how he says it, yada yada. But racism is such a leap. You know what I'm saying?
Course, like, of course, to assume that she hates all black people because she called on that guy. But
no, but I mean, what she did was pretty freaking racist. No, but we all kind of.
I don't remember exactly. No,
she may not be a racist, but what she did was.
No, we can't do that in today's world. No, we just can't, because then everybody's a racist. Trust me, I'm the biggest racist on the planet. Then you know what I'm saying? Like, it can't be. Like, first of all, people are allowed to make mistakes. Number one, okay, we're all human. So what is the worst thing she did? She said that this black guy,
she called the cops on a black guy who was really doing nothing, though.
Did she say
she might have called?
Did she say he threatened her?
Again, I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
And did he threaten her?
No.
I don't know.
You see again,
but can we make the assumption that if I was there,
she's filing a false, she's making a false accusation.
No, but she actually got charged with that. Believe it or not.
Well, which is funny because, well, I'm not getting into it. She got charged with because she's white. Because I've been on a lot of stuff where black people have made false allegations and nothing has ever happened.
Yeah.
And the reason why they don't usually prosecute that is because they don't want people to be afraid to call the police and make a complaint.
Yeah.
But
and then that's when the Karen stuff started, right?
Right, all the Karens
and that's the most racist. So and she supported? Didn't she give a lot of money to Obama for his
the lady who called the cops?
Yeah, they found out her whole history, voted for him twice.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Like
and suddenly
if we're gonna call that person again, I know you said she's maybe not maybe what she did was racist. But if we're going to call that act race, then there's just no hope. There's no hope for me. I need some hope.
You know, but you know what she did was, like you said, maybe she's not a racist.
And she's a woman.
What she did was based on race because she said, I'm going to call the cops. If what you're saying is
I mean, we could pull up the video if you want.
Not a big deal.
It's not worth it.
But if she said, I'm going to call and say that there's a black man threatening
my
me,
life.
she made it about race. If she could have said, I'm going to call up and say that you're threatening my life, and she left race. Listen, everything that happens between a black person and a white person isn't always about race. Absolutely. You know, I didn't arrest people because they were black. I arrested them, and they happened to be black.
Right.
I also worked in an all-black neighborhood. So, and believe me, when the white kids came through looking for their drugs, they got arrested too.
Yeah.
Or driven out of the area, And when I say driven out, if they didn't stop to make the exchange, you pull up behind them in the patrol car, they take off.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing in this neighborhood?
Right.
You don't.
So when I say driven out, they weren't actually driven to safety. They were forced out. Because,
yeah. But I know, and I get what you're saying. I just look at it from a more just simpler visual perspective. Like if you ask someone to ask her to describe the person, right?
Right.
She's gonna say a black guy.
Male, black, 5'8", whatever.
Again, the way I look at it is she's probably angry in the moment. Again, she's a woman. Maybe she feels more vulnerable. Like, I'm calling on the phone. Number one, I'm not going to call on the phone, right? I'm not going to call the cops if I just see her.
She probably
not gonna feel
she didn't like being told to put her dog on a leash.
That's what it really came from.
She has a sense of entitlement.
Clearly, she worked on the board of some bank
so she
or
thinks
something like that, right?
She's entitled.
She was let go because of PR.
Right.
Yeah.
I can do what I want. I'm going to walk my dog off leash. And, what would she have done if I had said to her, put your dog on a leash?
You mean as a cop or just as a person?
As a person.
Oh.
If I was said, lady, you got to put your dog on a leash.
Probably some sort of FU as well.
She would have made a call and said, you're...
Well... Yeah, no, it's fair to debate would she have made. Again, size, everything. If she sees me, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't know.
Yes, you're a lot more intimidating than I am.
Just a little bit, just slightly. But, I don't know. So it's the whole culture of jumping to calling everybody a race. Because it's the worst thing. Like, sexist is like, all right.
I can accept that, but, it's more of, in my perspective... When she made it about race, she said, oh, there's a black man. Okay, we could accept that it's about race. Other things, there's just scenarios where people, it may not be about race. It may just be a black person having a bad interaction with a white person, and the person may just be a fucking asshole.
Right.
Well, because it's race, it's going to go viral.
We need to go back to starting there.
But then
it's just two people.
But then people say, black people can't be racist. Well, if you hate white people, that makes you a racist. Or a bigot, whatever word you want. So they say someone who's affected by racism cannot be a racist.
Well, because they've labeled it as oppressed and the oppressor, which comes from the Communist Manifesto. Right. So none of these people have ever read the Communist Manifesto. No. First off, because if you've actually read the Communist Manifesto, all he does is talk about how incredible capitalism is. Like it's literally like a letter of jealousy. Every line starts with the bourgeoisie built the most incredible society ever. People live longer than ever, but. I couldn't join it, so
that's what Stalin's 5-year plans were always just masking agents for the fact that he was bitter of the United States States economic success. I just got done with that Smile Direct Club, so I'm learning how to speak all over again.
You just got done with what?
Smile Direct Club, where they give you those clear braces.
Oh, okay, I've heard of it. Yeah,
I finished that in August, and I swear I'm learning how to speak all over again. I find myself stuttering at times. It's weird.
Wait, so now what exactly does it do?
It just realigns your teeth so that, like, they're straighter.
Oh, okay.
But Stalin's 5-year plans were really just masking agents because he was bitter of the United States' economic success. So what he would do is just, we're going to launch this program, and because they're communist, the Soviet Union, we're just going to fudge all the numbers and say, yeah, we've surpassed the United States in production of wheat and coal and steel and all that.
And how did that wheat thing, well, you guys are too young to remember, in the 80s, what is the to each according to his need and to each according to his ability.
Right.
So they had I believe it was in the 80s, they had a wheat shortage because the people that were doing all the work weren't getting subsidized by the government, and they said, well, wait a second, why are we doing all the work? And so they weren't farming the wheat, and the U.S. had to send them wheat.
Yeah.
So
how'd they get their vodka then? They must have been screwed.
There was actually an economic program in Russia that encouraged people to stop drinking vodka because it was that bad of a problem back in like 2010.
Yeah, well, it's still a problem. Their average lifespan is only about 65 over there, and I think 60% smoke.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
Well, it was a major
insane.
problem after the fall of the Soviet Union. It was called a brain drain because anyone that was really smart enough to get out or qualified to get out, they pretty much did. And now that we're 45 years later, roughly, I mean, you're kind of seeing the effects of that. I mean,
well, that's why I'm like, when people, I don't know. Obviously, again, going back to World War II, after World War II, what did we do? What did the Soviets do? And what did we do? We took the German scientists who were brilliant. We took
all their scientists and
so now in today's world, where anything is the slightest bit racist, get rid of this name because he was a slave, or this guy supported. It's like, what, should we have not gone to the moon? Should we reverse that because Werner Braun was was the head of the and there were others. There were a lot of others. So Operation Overlord. Paperclip. Was it Paperclip? Yeah.
Like you said, this whole thing 20, 30 years later, what was acceptable 20, 30, 40 years ago that's not acceptable now shouldn't be held against you. And I'm not talking about, if you watch a lot of old TV like I do.
Archie Bunker.
Archie Bunker, but even any of the old shows, you see the
even when I was younger, it's a big difference, right?
And the mistreatment.
People don't accept it nowadays. They see it and they get offended by it. Yeah.
But if you lived, if the culture in the 70s, for example, was that a woman was submissive to a woman or to a man or inferior to a man. That's the way the culture was.
Yeah, it was not to offend people.
You can't now look forward ahead and say, well, it's not acceptable now, so we have to punish them because they did that back then.
Yeah.
But it was acceptable back then. I'm not saying it was right.
No,
it's just it was acceptable. So you can't,
you can't take them out of that time period and try to
and
adjust
change
them to your
their behavior. Right.
Now. No, of course not. I mean,
what I did in the 70s can't be undone.
Right. That's why, again, all of our historical figures, the ones that we always talk about, the tearing down of the statues.
Right.
Like
that doesn't negate what happened.
Can't judge George Washington by today's standards. Of course.
But it also doesn't negate what happened. The Civil War happened. That really wasn't a war about race. It was.
You mean not about slavery, or just what do you mean?
About slavery, right? It wasn't about slavery. It was, and then they also called it the Treason War because the South wanted to secede. All these other facts get thrown in there, and
Yeah, I mean, again, in the South they called it the War of Northern Aggression. For a long time. Now, again, that was a bit of their retelling of it, but I mean. Historically, yes, it was not immediately about slavery. That
it was to preserve the Union until Antietam, at which point the point of the war completely changed.
But it also was the Southern's economy was based on slavery and picking cotton and all. So it wasn't. But yes, they felt like their rights were being trampled. So that was at least what they said out loud as to why they felt they needed to secede. But it happened. History happened. Can't be unwritten.
Right. You can pull down all the statues you want. It still happened.
No, right. But of course, I don't want them pulling down the statues.
No,
you know
I don't.
Saying? Even the Confederate ones, I don't want them pulling out. And again, that's you get into muddier waters, but. It's like on the one hand, yes, am I an American? We're all Americans, but at the same time, I didn't grow up in Virginia or South Carolina. It's their history and it's our history. You know what I'm saying? Like, it kind of goes by location in a sense.
Absolutely.
It's global and it's local at the same time. Like, that's one of your guys. It's one of your boys. You want to promote Robert E. Lee or Stonewall Jackson, and it was again, even if it was built, some of the arguments, well, it was built, after civil rights in the 60s and they wanted it. It's still up. You know what I'm saying? Again, if you want to get together locally in your community and be like, but it's the supporting of anarchy and violence and allowing that's really at the heart of the problem. And again, I'm telling you that these people, we keep letting them do what they want. They'll try to change the name of America. I swear to God. I mean, Amerigo Vespucci was a slave owner. He owned slaves. I mean, they hate Christopher Columbus. We see that.
Right.
The guy credited with founding the country. There won't be any limits. There are no limits to what they're doing. They're complete anarchists, and they're simply doing it. There isn't, again, they might call themselves Marxists or postmodern. They don't even know there's no real idea. They're just doing it because they can.
Right. Because
they can go out there, and you see like when those mugshots of like those rich, spoiled white kids are out. Yeah. Why the hell would you be out there? What are you so angry about?
The system that you're fighting against is the system you were raised in.
Right.
Of wealth and privilege. The same white privilege you're yelling that people have is the same white privilege that you have
and when you take over a BLM rally, you're
right again. As we said,
everything you said, I couldn't imagine doing that.
You can't be more offended than the victim, as you said earlier.
He's sitting there like, I don't know if you agree with that.
I mean, something. It's your opinion.
He's a liberal.
No,
that's
we don't hold it against him. We don't hold it against him.
Something. I don't hold people's opinions against them like that. Like, I understand that there's going to be people that obviously, I don't agree with, and I agree that a lot of these protests, when the destruction of property gets out there, it's not right. And, these people do need to be prosecuted and made an example of. But in terms of the statues, in terms of people being offended, how I feel in terms of that. I put my standards on what John Meacham said. If they tried to make this a better union, like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin did, then obviously you have the argument to leave these up. But people like Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, that took up arms against the Union to preserve something that, as much as you want to say it's not about race, I mean, it was not about that in the beginning. The Confederate Constitution, the First Amendment, did read that you had the right to own a slave. So.
But again, number one, they're taking down the George Washington statues.
I mean, I don't agree.
I remember when people were laughing at
Trump
when he said that.
They're having an uproar. I think
they took down a Frederick Douglass one, took down a Grant one.
Abraham Lincoln, I think they wanted to take down.
Yeah, they wanted to take down Abraham. They're getting rid of the Teddy Roosevelt one, and because they don't like the image that the Indian and the black guy are further behind. It just feels wrong. It looks bad.
Right. See,
like endowment.
You're right there, man. I think you need to put the braces back on.
That and the endowment of the Natural History Museum that's in Manhattan is obviously going to be very liberally based. I mean, look at the economic.
It's 2020 and it's still up there. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing?
So what are we going to do? We're going to rename all the towns in Long Island that were named after Indian tribes now? Massapequa is no longer Massapequa. Merrick is no longer Merrick.
It's like we're saying, where do we?
Still exists. I live in Levittown. I'm surprised that still exists. And again, one of the things people don't talk about much, but you're Jewish, but there were Jewish guys who were incredibly racist. Robert Moses, Levitt, all throughout time.
Right.
So
Robert Moses built those bridges on the Sun State Low,
so the blacks couldn't come on the buses.
Yeah.
He designed all the projects to resemble,
and he would go through Brooklyn
prisons because he said this is going to be generation after generation living here,
right?
And it resemble prison compounds.
And he would cut right through the heart of like Brooklyn, where a lot of and just be like, you just guys got to move. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, years later, like he built that crap. You know what I'm saying? It was industrious. It was the roads we use every day. We don't even think about it.
So now I think they're talking about changing the name of the Robert Moses Causeway.
I'm sure they are. They just changed something again at another school. They got rid of Yale. I don't know. Where does it end? And then what happens when you change them all to something else? Then what? Everybody's going to get along great? Because they're walking.
All of a sudden, we have no statues.
They're not going into the John Calhoun building anymore. They're going through the, I don't know. I don't know. What's a good I don't know. The Martin Luther King building. So what? Right. We're all going to get along magically. Again, they're just doing it just because, I don't know. They're just it's weakness. It's just weakness. They tell themselves they're being good and that they're being kind people. It's just simply they're afraid. They're all
absolutely.
Just terrified. I don't know if you want to say something.
I mean, in terms of like what they're just weak. I mean, if someone's offended by it and they vote to take it down,
that's weakness. So, people are going to be offended by comments I make constantly. What am I? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference between being appropriate in certain settings. Like, you go to a dinner, you go out to you're going to be appropriate. You're not going to throw food. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to be crass. But there's a difference between not saying what you think and you believe, especially if you can back it up with evidence or fact. And this kind of just dancing around, walking on eggshells because you don't want to offend any. Because then they might overreact and destroy something because of like that's essentially what's happening. You know, there's how many times again you watch videos and they're screaming, "Well, we're outraged." You know, like if there's a black guy shot, "Oh, we're going to destroy it because we're oppressed and we're outraged and we're." Like, no, it's not okay on any level ever from anybody, you know, and it has those universal principles have to apply to everybody. Otherwise, it's all for naught. We're trying to individualize everything to meet everybody. That's an impossible world to live in. You can't. There's just too many scenarios. You can't possibly make everything perfect for each individual person. That's why we have laws, which we have civilization. They're not always going to apply applicably to everybody, but you can't like, oh, well, you know, you had a harder life growing up, so I'm going to alter it now. It just doesn't work. Life's unfair. It just is.
I completely agree with that, but I mean, if somebody in society in general votes that they want to take down a statue or rename a building, I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
But that's
right.
key.
It really is not vote to do it, not to just say we're going to storm this building and rip that statue down.
Well, obviously, these people should be prosecuted for doing things like that, and in a lot of cases, they are being prosecuted for these things.
Not enough, not nearly enough. Well, only federally, really. Like in Portland, they're not doing anything. No. And again, you see how many black police chiefs have been stepping. Like there were 2 female black police chiefs, right? And one in Seattle, and one in Portland, something like that.
And the one in Rochester that just
whatever it was. Well, he was a black man.
And I think Dallas Fort Worth.
It's like
also.
You're hurting them now. Also, like the incoming class to the NYPD that got shut down. You know, when de Blasio took away the $1 billion, there was supposed to be a new class of like 1,200. Most of them were black.
Right.
You know, most of these police departments in big cities are over 50% African American. You're taking away jobs from them now. How is this? Right. How is this helping them? It's just complete madness, and that's why I can only come down to one. It's just weakness. They're just too fearful. They're trying to play every side from every angle, so they never get. And yet
you
they're
can't
still
play 2 sides meet the middle. It doesn't.
And they're
work.
still getting booed. They go out. You see that, right? Like, you know, the guy Tom Wheeler, the guy in Portland, went to like a BLM, and he got booed by them. De Blasio gets booed all the time by black people. Like, so everybody hates you. Like, so you're not doing anything right. So, you know, why then? Why continue down the path? And the only thing I can come to is it's just weakness. They're always just weak about everything. You know, that's my rant. There's probably more to come.
It's your opinion. You're entitled to that. I mean,
it's my opinion, but it's based on what I'm. I don't know. How do you arrive? Like, what opinion do you arrive at then? Like, based like De Blasio's reasoning for doing what he's doing and continuing. Like, the city's falling apart. Like, if you know, like there's certain things I feel like we can't debate. Like, the city is falling apart. People are fleeing. Everybody hates the cops.
Well, that's also. I mean, coronavirus is a huge part of that.
You know what? And I knew you were going to go there with that, but. There's only so much of that you can blame because
I mean
the bail reform came before COVID.
Oh no, I completely agree with that, and I remember being in this.
The homelessness got worse under De Blasio.
Oh yeah,
all these programs, you know. So the city started in a spiral before COVID.
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
So
but I mean,
yes, and people aren't just fleeing because of COVID.
But
they're
also
fleeing because of what's been put in place as a result of sending all those homeless people up to the Upper West Side. So now all these rich people are moving out. So you got no money coming in.
But at the same time, I mean, you said that you were a real estate agent. I mean, home sales inside of New York City are also at record rates. I mean, so when you say that, I mean,
inside New York City?
Yeah.
I don't know that for a fact. I know that I was told if you want to buy something in New York City, wait 6 months because the price is really going to come down.
I mean, apartments are actually at a much higher rate. They're available, but home prices in New York City are actually through the roof in terms of like how often they're going now.
Well, it could just be rich Chinese people buying them all up, and then like there's a lot of these apartments that are vacant. Nobody lives in them because they're just bought up by some rich person. And then again, I'm not going to speak to that.
I don't know enough about Manhattan real estate.
I mean, this is just stuff that I've read in articles, but
it's a whole different animal.
Because I know some people.
In terms of coronavirus, I mean, I have read that since March, 434,000 people have left New York City. I mean, that's just since March, which is like the equivalent of the population of Cleveland.
To that point, who's responsible for letting it fall apart? Then, like. Why do you need to flee then?
Well, I mean, that's also like we discussed with John 2 weeks ago. I mean, the density of New York City and people wanted to get out and now have more home space, yards, more rooms, home offices, home gyms. I mean, you don't have to go into Manhattan to do your work anymore. A lot of these people are working from home. I mean,
well, yes,
that's a huge aspect of it. I mean, I'm not going to argue that de Blasio is not an asshole, but I mean, that's also part of how the culture is now.
Right, but how is that going to keep rents up if people are saying, now I don't need big office space anymore because people are working from home. I don't need any office space.
Well, I mean, that's not just, I mean, de Blasio and cities. I mean, that's just a societal thing in general where people, I mean, everything has changed in the span of 6 months.
No,
yeah,
right.
Because now people are going to be allowed to work from home because bosses or owners of companies are going to realize I don't need to have all these people in here.
Yeah, I mean, and that's going to, these companies are going to realize I don't need this overhead space, you know, for real estate.
There's also a possibility now you can take those people and have them work from home, and I don't know enough about labor law, but maybe now they become 1099 employees and they're not employees, they're consultants, so now they got to pay their own taxes, and that gets you off the hook for supplying them with health care, any sort of retirement benefits and stuff like that.
I mean, that could happen. I mean, what are you going to say? I mean, are we going to blame that specifically on de Blasio? I mean,
no.
I'm not going to argue that he's not an asshole, but
what I'm saying is
I'll blame it on de Blasio and Cuomo and the Democrats who think this lockdown is the most. They're destroying so many businesses. I mean, like the idea that you're going to save a person from coronavirus but destroy two people who own a business so they have nothing makes no sense. It's just craziness, and there's no evidence. There is no. They keep saying go back to the science. There's no fucking science that backed up anything that they say. Ever. And it's de Blasio and it's Cuomo, and sometimes they're at each other's throats. I can't even, like, remember when Cuomo said he was going to take over the city because de Blasio was doing such a bad job with the cops and riots, and then he backs away from it, and now he's fighting Trump. Like, Trump, whatever he is, he's sent Cuomo everything he asked for. He got. And Cuomo said that repeatedly, you know, and it's just the going back and forth. Like, people are leaving because they shut down the schools. They don't know what to do. I know somebody that I work with, she, Marie Michelle, now this is Nassau, I won't blame de Blasio for this, but she can't bring her kid to school because they're only allowing 33% of the class to be full. So she now has to take 2 weeks off from school to stay with her kid, and then because he's being homeschooled, and then her mother has to come to sit with him that's madness, bro. That's absolute madness. Like,
that's just, I mean,
where's the science that say the kids get sick from coronavirus? There's hardly any. We know that they don't die from it.
Well, I mean, have you seen the infection stories that broke out in terms of summer camps with these kids over the summer? I mean, there were camps that had 1,200 kids in them, and they found out over a span of 48 hours, 800 would test positive, and they would have to send them home. I mean,
there's also a difference between contracting the virus, because we know a lot of people are asymptomatic and they can't, and being sick and then getting over it and dying from it. Like, we know the people that are going to die from it. 90+% are older and have serious health conditions. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're destroying her life now. She can't make money. Her mother's got to come take care of this idea that you're going to save one life, but you're going to hurt two in a very different way. You know, and we know
it also
suicides are up. Drug use is way up. Alcoholism's way up. Divorces are way up.
Well, I mean,
because people can't live with you.
You can't live with each other.
You know?
I can live with you for 6 or 8 hours a day, but not.
Right. If we're talking about the science, it's like they're just looking at some isolated facts. They're not looking at the whole picture. You should be like, if you're a doctor, look at the suicides too. Look at the drug use. Look at everything, and then come up with an informed, intelligent decision. But I don't see any evidence of it.
You know something? All I can go off is, when I spoke to my mom's pulmonologist when I was there with her 2 weeks ago, he told me that during March and April, he was having cases of intubating 32 patients at a time. 32 patients on ventilators at a time for one person responsible. He said he was working 16-hour shifts. He would go home, not be able to sleep, because he would think about, hey, is this person going to be alive when I get back to my shift? So when you say there's no science behind it, I mean, I've spoken to doctors, nurses. They've all told me that, hey, you should have seen it in March and April. There are people that died from this. I mean,
absolutely.
When you say that we have to just roll everything out. No, but when you're out here like preaching that we should just open everything up and
but that's
kids are asymptomatic, I mean,
if we go stuff,
he didn't say that. But what he's saying is
what you're getting towards.
But they're crippling.
No, I'm just saying,
crippling the economy on purpose.
Decisions.
No, I understand that, but
by
if we
not allowing this stuff to
but if we do open schools and things like that at full capacity, and we do get another wave and things break out and we're in flu season, same thing, double-edged sword. We're all going to say, well, who's the asshole who said it's a good idea that we should do this?
But now come the flu season, Is everyone that gets the regular flu now going to be considered corona?
I mean,
All right, here's the question: is this what we're doing now working?
Well, obviously not, because every college that opens up, they're having to shut down. So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't just say haphazardly, let's just all go out there. And if people are asymptomatic, that's fine.
First off, that's not what I said. I didn't say everybody go out there. I was talking about
most kids are asymptomatic. I mean,
said most kids do not get the virus. That's scientifically proven. Okay, they say that every day.
Well, that's also not also true. I mean, I've seen very much so that this virus is being driven between people who are between 17 and 49.
Well, for 17, number one, we're talking about college age, older. Okay, number one. And we know that they tend to congregate. Again, but it's the fact that, like, remember when all those protests were happening and nobody wanted to say that those could have been the super spreader event?
They absolutely were.
But do you notice nothing ever came out that anyone from those riots got COVID?
Except for the numbers in the areas spiked. I mean, in California.
But they're never going to say that because it doesn't meet the media's agenda. They'll say that, Trump is having a rally and people aren't wearing a masks, so this is going to be a hot spot for a spike in corona. But nobody talks about any spike in corona with the riots.
I mean, I did see that plenty of places. I mean, obviously, we just had the discussion before where you say people don't see what they want to see, that you have to be more objective. I mean, when you go beyond things like MSNBC and Fox News, and you get into things like Market Watch and Forbes and these other websites, you can get these stories where they show you that, yes, these protests and these rallies and Sturgis, and these things do lead to virus outbreaks.
Well, they love talking about Sturgis. Why? Because they're a bunch of white bikers. You know, that's Trump's base. I mean, so they love going at them.
We could talk about we mentioned it earlier, the amount of new cases versus the amount of deaths per day. Because at what point are we going to be no different than? And everyone talked about the regular flu. How many lives does the regular, if there's a such thing as a regular flu?
I mean, I get that, but I also don't ever remember the regular flu killing 200,000 people in 7 months. So,
no, sure. I mean, well, you'd have to go back to the Spanish flu before any kind of.
I mean, of course not. But that's also that's the crux that we're in. It's like, how much do we put these people who own businesses at a disadvantage and put them out versus how quickly do we reopen this stuff and potentially spread this virus again?
But what I'm saying, they're not looking at it that like they're just not. They're just shut down the businesses and they're like, that's it. You're not freaking getting reopened. Like,
well, I mean, at the same time, these people are also responsible and getting blamed if we do have virus outbreaks.
But then they'll deal with it. We'll deal with it.
It's one of those things where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. However, there's coming to a point now where we have to start opening things up.
Well, that's also what it is. I mean, I saw in New York City now they can reopen restaurants, indoor dining up to 25%. I mean, we've obviously had indoor dining in Long Island for a while. The kids are going back to school to some capacity. I mean, it's not as fast as some people want, but it's like, where is this
what seems
threshold?
Like a reasonable approach to me is, again, who the people are who get it, right? So I don't know. Maybe check IDs at the door. Maybe if you're 65 or 70, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, that's ageism. Then you can't.
You know what? This is an you also can't shut down everybody's business. You know what I'm saying? Like just some sort of different approach. We know who gets it and who dies, and to me, there is a big distinction between who gets it and who dies. There's again,
definitely
a lot of young people are gonna get sick from it. I know people, but they didn't die from it. There was virtually no chance that they were going to die from it. And again, what is it, 40% or something like that? Don't even know they have it. They're asymptomatic. But it's the misinformation. Like, you remember when the person out of the UN said it's very, very rare that, the asymptomatic people ever spread it. Why didn't they start the masks earlier? They started it 2 months later.
Well, that's also getting into the Bob Woodward story that broke out where Trump, apparently knew about all this and, decided that he didn't want to panic the nation. So
right. And that's what look, you knew that from the beginning. Like, you knew that someone told him it's going to be bad, I'm sure. And the way Trump is, he looks at it like, okay, well, maybe we'll try to deal with it behind the scenes, but I'm not going to panic anybody, because that's the way he's going to look at it.
No, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it was on the tapes. I mean, he literally said, I know it's going to be this bad. I know it's going to infect these people. I don't want to panic, people. I mean, it's just.
But he's right.
I get that, but it's like
mass hysteria.
You don't.
That's
the
true.
Stock
but when
market will plunge.
It plunged anyway. But when you say,
sometimes you got to just deal with.
When you say the misinformation, I mean, if he had the information,
but look at what people did.
You can calmly relay that.
We're going and getting all the toilet paper out of every store. People are crazy. People they react crazy. You can't just, as a political leader, we always blast him because he's not tempered enough. We always talk about his temperament.
But at the same time, I mean, mean, how many countries from Australia to New Zealand to Germany to France wound up having their leaders go out and say, well, this is what you need to do. This is how bad it is.
First off,
and
they got
people
it
didn't
sooner.
panic.
Oh, no, you're right. There was
I'm not saying that he's 100% wrong, but I mean, there were things that you could say, obviously, we should have done this better.
But we're always going to say that. If Biden was in president,
I mean, that's fair.
We already know he wouldn't have shut down the border with China.
But here's the other thing. Anybody that sits here and says a previous president would have done a better job is merely speculating, because we will never, ever know. Just because that person may have shown what you deem to be better leadership, I don't mean you personally.
No, I get what you're saying.
Does not mean that they would have handled this any better.
It's something that we'll never be able to prove because there's no comparison to it.
Right.
Well, Time Magazine, I said this, they did about a couple weeks ago, they did do a ranking of worst presidents in a crisis, and they decided that Woodrow Wilson was the worst ever in a crisis.
But he also sold the country out to the Federal Reserve.
The reason they blamed him was because simultaneously he was fighting the Spanish flu while fighting World War I.
Right.
And so he put all his resources towards winning World War I. So he never talked about the Spanish flu once. Like, it's not ever mentioned. And like 675,000 people end up dying. But it wasn't that he didn't provide as many resources as he could available. It's just that they called him the worst president because he didn't deal with both well. Like, he only dealt with one well. Like, that just seems like an incredible standard. That's crazy to me. How do you just, I couldn't imagine dealing with the Spanish flu in 1918 and fighting World War I. I got to pick one. You know what I'm saying? I'm not winning both. I don't know. It just seems so cruel to me.
It is.
It is. But anything else you want to talk? On a later note, let's take it down now. Look at my blood pressure's going up.
Yeah, I can feel you're getting a vein in the side of your head there.
But yeah, turning a little red. I'm sweating too.
You been watching any baseball? You excited about the Yankees almost falling out?
Yeah, I'm upset about that. I'm a Yankee fan, and
every night it's like, how are they going to disappoint me?
I was going to wear it.
I
forgot.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about it. Well, listen, you have no reason to wear a Red Sox hat.
No reason.
The Yankees have really taken a plunge. I never thought they were built for a short season anyway, because they're a very streaky team.
Something?
Way too many injuries.
This season is screwing with everyone, because you look at all the powerhouse teams, from the Yankees to the Astros to even the Red Sox, who in a bad year will finish 10 games over 500. I mean, all these teams are, sub 500 teams. And then you got the Twins, the A's, and the Rays that are up at the top. I'm like,
well, they're consistent though. The Twins, the Rays, and the A's are usually at the top.
I still got a feeling that once we get into the playoffs, we'll be fine.
Baseball, they have a better system, so the small market teams can do well. There's more parity than other leagues. But once they kind of didn't start the season on time, and it was only going to be 60 games, and then the Red Sox put up that Black Lives Matter sign in the outfield. And I was like, no, you guys can go to hell. I'm not watching a game. And then they got rid of Mitch Moore. Yeah, so they're just tanking this year.
That's why I'm a big Jets fan, and I'm a little worried about what they're going to do tomorrow.
Did you watch the
I didn't. I was.
I just saw them getting booed at the beginning. Did you see that?
I heard about it. I was at acting class that night.
I don't know.
They did that after. You know what? You had to expect it was going to happen. I mean, they decided to stay in the locker room for the national anthem.
Oh, did they?
The Chiefs came out on the field. The Texans stayed in the locker room. So
J.J. Watt too.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
A lot of teams are actually electing to do it. I think the Dolphins tomorrow are not going to come out. There's a few teams that are not going to do it.
Oh my God! See, the white guys on the team were terrified the 70 black guys are going to beat the shit out of them.
Well, we talked about that with Drew Brees the other week too. I mean, he's also worried about his corporate sponsorships too. So,
those went by the wayside, kind of, didn't they? But I think they're just terrified of their teammates. You got a 350-pound, black guy from Samoa or whatever the hell. You're afraid he's not going to protect you on the pass rush.
Right, that could also happen.
So he's going to be like, "Whoops, sorry, Drew," but Drew should just retire.
No, I got him starting from my fantasy football team.
You think Tom Brady's going to be? He's the only guy I'm going to watch. I'm only going to watch the Buccaneers. Tom Brady and Gronkowski's playing, right?
Yeah, they're playing each other
here's
tomorrow.
The whole thing now.
Oh, are they?
If Brady has a crap year, everyone's going to say, well, he's 42 years old.
Right.
Or whatever he is, 41, 42.
Fair.
I think he's actually 43. One of them's 43, the other one's 41. They're old.
But my point is, I've always felt that Brady was more of a system quarterback. The benefit of a system.
Give him some credit. Give the man some credit.
I'm not taking away his ability, but we got to remember something. You were drafted 6th for a reason. So my point is this:
guys that do well.
No, but if Cam Newton under Belichick becomes some great super quarterback, we're going to start to understand that this was more of a systems quarterback. That's why I wish Brady wasn't as old as he is when he left the team, because
you would get a better idea.
You get a better idea of.
But you also got to imagine, I think there was a lot of friction between the two.
Oh, they hated. I'm not gonna say they hate each other. They did not like each other,
which I never understood. Like, isn't Tom Brady your GOAT? Like,
yeah, but Brady was.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like Tom
Brady
Lynn.
and Kraft are.
And Belichick doesn't like that. Like, I'm confused
well,
about the whole thing.
The reason why is because now Brady has a direct line to Kraft, the owner. He gets in his ear. Why do you think Garoppolo was traded? Brady got nervous that he was going to lose his job.
No, that
because Belichick has no loyalty to anything but winning.
No, right, but Belichick didn't like him before that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get it.
And I don't understand it.
Now, if he wanted to get rid of him, he would have. But it's Kraft that kept him. That's why that whole Garoppolo thing.
Right. But
Brady went up to Kraft and said, "I want him out of
here."
It
always seems to have been uneasy, and I don't understand. Like, Tom Brady's, he's good looking, wins you titles constantly. I don't know, like what more could you want? Like, what? I don't know.
Belichick, from what I've heard in terms of both of them, like from their pride's sake, they both want to prove that they can do it without the other. So both of them are wanting to do that.
Bill Parcells never won without Belichick.
Yeah.
But again, like you said, Brady's 41 now. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to him to prove that. He's going to be diminished. Like, he's going to be
absolutely
diminished.
He has to be.
Right. So, I don't know. I wouldn't expect him to be as good. Even like if he stayed on the Patriots, I think he'd be a little bit better than he's going to be on the Bucs.
But if he stayed on the Patriots would still be probably favored, not favored.
A playoff team, but not winning.
No, but they would have been probably favored to get to the Super Bowl.
Did they get any weapons in terms of what? Because that was the big knock.
The Patriots have also had the benefit of playing in the AFC East, where it's like they play the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills. It's like there's 6 wins on your schedule right there. I mean, you're halfway to the playoffs.
Actually, the Dolphins always have given.
Actually, that's true. They're like Achilles' heel for some reason.
But
no, you're right. They play in a weak division. They're a dominant team.
Yeah,
but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And listen, as they always say, don't ever underestimate Belichick.
Yeah,
because he knows how to use people in the right situations to get the most out of them.
Sure.
That's why you don't have. If you really know, Brady. But
he also knows how to piss people off. Didn't he take out that during the Super Bowl against Atlanta? Didn't he take out?
He benched Logan Ryan. Not Logan Ryan.
No.
Yes, I don't remember his name. But
he benched a cornerback because he's been acting like an asshole during the week, and the team lost the game because of it. A very close game.
That's probably his one downside. Is for the genius that he is.
I remember they started Justin Bethel was the backup, but I can't remember the starter that he benched. It's going to drive me nuts.
But that was the knock, is that he didn't have any wide receivers last year, Tom Brady. And I think it was more because he was diminished, because Brady 5 years ago could have passed to anybody, right? I mean, that's what he always did. He made the wide receivers great.
But
he made
Brady doesn't have it. He's not a deep threat guy.
Not a deep threat guy.
Randy Moss he was, but
right, he can be.
He needs the quick, because
he's like a 10, 15-yard.
The longer he holds on to the ball, obviously, the more chance he has of getting sacked.
Well, he can't scramble. He can't scramble for shit.
So,
he never could.
So that's why they have the slot receivers, Julian Edelman, all these short, And
they changed the rule for him right after his ACL got torn. They're like, can't have that happen in the Tom Brady.
Right.
They you can't hit low, you can't hit high.
Yeah, I mean, they totally so. But yeah, he can't scramble for anything. But
that's another thing that irritates me about football, not about Brady in particular, but when a ref makes a call, I understand we got replay now, but forgetting about that. When the ref makes a call, and then the player, usually the receiver, turns around and says, "Oh, come on," and then the ref throws the flag.
Well, like you can't respond, that sort of thing. Fun league.
No, you can complain to the ref and say, "Come on, he was grabbing me," but that shouldn't make you change your call.
Yeah, they play it up the drama.
The player complaining to the ref.
Are you saying the refs changed the call because of
yes, and then all of a sudden,
if you see Tom Brady screaming at you like, "What the hell? I mean, you're screwing us over here." You can influence somebody's opinion.
Well, that you can influence because
you'll see every league. You'll see the receiver. It's not pass interference, and then he'll say it was pass interference, and all of a sudden the ref throws the flag. All right, pass. You're changing the whole momentum of the game. You're changing.
Yeah.
It goes both ways. I mean, how many bad calls have refs made that?
Now that we've got these camera angles,
a bad call is different than being told by a player to change your call. Because that's basically what they're saying. The receiver's saying, absolutely.
I feel like it happens all the time in the NBA because they're always
another
talking.
another
It's
example.
impossible to watch.
Another example.
LeBron James is fouled for the 78th time.
Right, but they won't call it a foul because it's LeBron James. Listen, I understand better players get away with a little bit more, and I understand that. And
that's part of it. That's just
a good pitcher will get that. The
inside
corner.
Suddenly, the blacking on the plate becomes the strike zone. But I don't like when they complain to the ref and he changes the call.
No, that's fair enough. They shouldn't ever be changing a call. I mean, but
well, let me rephrase that. Maybe they're not changing the call; they're making a no call into a penalty.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So where do you stand on then? How modernized do you make the game? How much more technology?
I don't think you need any more technology. I think technology is unfortunately killing a lot of the sports.
I'm the complete opposite. I review everything, get me every camera angle, make the call right on the screen, because I can't stand it when I see a ref get a call wrong in football and they're showing you on the screen like, nope, he got this one wrong. I hate that.
I agree with you, but
it's human error.
But back in the day when you didn't have all this stuff, it was human error, and that's what makes the game a little bit more exciting because, and again, there's a difference between intentionally blowing the call and missing the call.
Well, I think that's the funny thing.
You got Angel Hernandez in baseball.
Oh, that was so bad.
That ump is terrible, man.
But that's a situation where you want a technology, right?
But just in general, he makes the game about himself.
Right.
They can't get rid of him.
Right.
He's got because he's actually filing a lawsuit because they don't let him in any playoff games.
Well.
He does it because
that was so egregious.
I watched him.
But he could have changed the call, right?
I watched him call timeout. Right, he gives the batter timeout, and all of a sudden there's a triple play, and he called it out, and he called everybody out. I said, "You just gave the guy timeout,"
But can you change a call? Can a ref cheat? Right, they can technically, and not at least if they go confer.
What would happen is
back
when I was a kid, you would see the umpires would get together
right.
and they would say, "All right, what did you see? What did you see?" And then they could change the call.
And I think that's the
balls
problem.
and strikes. You're not going to get changed.
Well, that you can't. You're not allowed to.
Right.
You're not allowed to.
But there were times when there would be calls on the field and the umps would get together and they would.
I mean, I'm scarred and biased, especially when it comes to football, because I always remember back to that 2011 NFC divisional game when the Giants beat the Packers. There was two separate plays that were so blatantly going for the Giants, and the refs screwed them so badly. And I just remember screaming at my TV.
I think it's the most overt in football because you can have a 30-yard pass that's all of a sudden negated.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
But now,
there was a play I will never forget.
But now they're calling everything.
Yeah. That's a problem.
Now,
literally that's what it was. And like we were saying, the star treatment, Aaron Rodgers got himself roughing the passer on a 3rd and 12 at the middle of the fourth quarter that could have changed the entire complexion of the game. And they go back and review it. And even Joe Buck, the biggest asshole in the world, he didn't hit him high. He didn't hit him low. He shouldered him while he had the ball. What did he do?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You can't do anything.
Why don't you like Joe Buck?
Joe Buck, he's terrible at calling. There were points of the shutdown when I would have settled for Joe Buck calling a hockey game. He's just the worst person to listen to call sports. He sucks.
Fair enough.
Wasn't for his old man, he wouldn't be anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, but it's not football. You can't really do much, right, in terms of technology. How do you judge? How a guy got hit or pulled the whole.
You know what they do?
Pass interference.
They don't change the holding calls. Pass interference is reviewable now.
Right.
If you're a head coach and you want to waste one of your challenges, you can throw the flag and have the refs review it, but the overturn rate is 0.013% because the refs don't want to be yeah, we got this wrong.
Well, that's the thing I don't like. I think that's what people don't like is when why didn't Angel Hernandez confer with the other umps and change that call? There's an ego to these guys that I've never liked.
Right, especially him. He makes the game about himself.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. So I think I'd be fine with baseball. Get rid of the ump behind the plate. I don't care about his job. Put the balls
just
and
let
strikes.
him go.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's really just
you talk about technology. You could use
they have it already. They have it already.
Call.
Right.
Yeah.
They use it in the minors. They have it already. I'm like, well, if you use it in the minors, use it. This is such a weird.
Traditionalists don't want it.
Well, that's the thing. I think that's really just.
And you're also eliminating jobs.
Well, no, right, and they have a union. There's always just strong unions that screw everything up. But I think that's really the crux of the debate: is just how much human error do you want versus do you want? You know what I'm saying? I think it's because I even know we grew up not on technology. We grew up watching sports and human error is just kind of something you accept. But should you? You know what I'm saying? if you can get the call right, get the call right.
Yeah.
You know?
You know what it is now? They have so many different camera angles, and they can zoom in on every little thing. So it's like if your knee is off the ground by this much when you fumble that football, they can zoom in on that. So it's like you may not really make that big of a mistake, but they're going to put it out there in every camera angle possible. Right. So it's like you're going to get exposed.
I don't have an issue with reviewing stuff that's reviewable. I just, as I mentioned earlier, I just don't like when a player complains and the ref then makes a no call into a call.
Yeah. And it's definitely true where people get star treatment. It is so damn true in every sport.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we benefit with the Yankees, but I mean, other times it's like.
Have you been watching any of those? Do you watch basketball at all or anything else?
No, I don't watch basketball.
Okay. I don't think anybody does.
Like,
they're in the playoffs, supposedly.
I think so.
They're almost like
the Nets?
I don't know.
Can't be the Knicks.
I think I saw a headline the Celtics are going to be in
the Celtics are going to the conference finals. I didn't even know they were in the playoffs. I had no idea.
I had no idea. I was reading the Nielsen ratings for the NFL game.
Bad.
Yeah.
Well, the NFL one was down. Not terrible, but
you know what?
I don't know what.
That's another thing that it's like BS in a sense because it's the same thing that happened with the conventions where it's like, oh yeah, the numbers were so down. Like, no, we're just technology has gotten to a point where there's 15 different streaming services.
Also, people can watch stuff later. They can watch it whenever they want. A free,
Yeah, that's like. There's so much, like, the streaming doesn't make that much of a difference. Yeah, it does. If you've got 5 million people streaming, I mean, that makes a big difference. Especially
but
with
I think when every sport has a drop, there's something there.
Yeah.
You know? And they're all making political statements.
And there was a drop last year or 2 years ago in the NFL. And, you know, then they said, well, it's an election year, so people were obviously more than 2 years ago, but you know, and I don't even know if they said it was when it was an election year. They always come up with excuses as to why it's down because they didn't want to attribute it to the Kaepernick.
Right. Yeah, he still has never played a game, right?
No, and now,
but they put him in Madden though.
Did they?
But that tells you something. If nobody, even now with all of this the uproar about everything, nobody's.
No, there was just a report. No teams are interested. Well, again, he effed it up himself. I mean. Didn't he call like the owner of the Ravens who was trying to bring him in a slave owner or the girlfriend did?
He did something like that and he got himself shot in the foot.
And like Ray Lewis was and then Ray Lewis is like, oh dude, no part of you. Even I don't want any part of you. Like,
I mean, he's also not allowed to say what he got in his settlement, but I would be curious to see what he got.
He got a settlement for what?
Yeah, the NFL settled with him to stop his lawsuit and to
as if he didn't get enough from Nike for you know. That's the weakness.
I honestly think whoever runs the PR for the NFL probably went, you have more money than God. Just give him his fucking check and make him go away. I think that's honestly what they were trying to do.
That's what they always say, you know. And hey, I
think that's at least the intention that they were going with. Like, listen, let's just try to buy this guy out.
No, it's what people with money do. Buy everybody out, you know. What about the lawsuit with Bill O'Reilly? What was that, $35 million some chick got because he made some dirty phone calls to her? They were pretty gross, but not 30.
Oh, you heard them?
Yeah, I heard what he said. Like, it was something like, he sent her like a dildo. And he was like telling her what he wants her to do to her with it and just weird stuff. But $35 million. You harass me anytime, Bill O'Reilly.
Right.
Call me out. Send me a dildo. Send me the biggest dildo you can. Right. With 30. That's just incredible. Incredible. How does even Fox even have any money left? Roger Ailes, Bill O'Reilly.
Right.
They tried to go after Sean Hannity, but he like defended himself.
Well, Rupert Murdoch is
shocker.
Rupert Murdoch just has
That's
more
what I
money
love.
than
You ever
fucking
watch
God.
Succession on HBO?
No.
You never heard it? I feel like
I've heard of it. I never saw it.
Yeah, I started watching after a few people started telling me about it. Will Ferrell, Adam McKay.
Okay.
They do produce it or whatever. But yeah, it's basically based on like Rupert Murdoch. It's an American family, but they own what's equivalent to Fox News. It's like America something on.
Okay.
And yeah. But they just make it like an American dynasty, an American family.
Okay.
But it's clearly based on Rupert Murdoch and his two sons.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. No, it's really, really good. But yeah, it's funny that this Australian guy owns Fox News, right? his two sons. But yeah, they brought in Roger Ailes, and he built the Fox News.
I mean, they knew what they were doing in the '90s. I mean, they freaking cornered that market.
Clearly, I mean, there's no way they could have predicted this kind of split. You know what I'm saying? Like he built it in a stranger time.
They had the idea of cornering that market to an extent, so they knew what they were. Well,
they saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what made Roger Ailes such a genius for whatever else he was. yeah, to have seen what was coming like that. Because you go back to I like Clinton, the original Bill Clinton as a president. You know, guys from Arkansas. You know, he was a real Democrat. This is when Democrats and Republicans were just different on policy.
They say that he was actually the first black president.
That's what they used to say. That's what they used to say. I love it when Trump says, "I think I'm the greatest president for blacks, maybe since Lincoln." And I say maybe. You gotta love it when he just says shit like that. Like
that's
it's so
what I love
great.
about him.
I know.
And
How do you hate that? Just balls on this guy.
And here's
Let
the
him
other
hang
thing.
low. You know.
That's one of the things that you love, and that's one of the things that I hate. Where it's like I would actually go for him more if he would cut that out.
Well, yeah, there are times he's yes, I agree. There are times he needs to pull it back.
I look at it from a comedic level.
But here's how I look at it.
It's
when
so
everybody is after you,
right.
It means you must be doing something right because they're afraid.
Yeah,
they're afraid, and they're gonna say, "Well, they're all afraid for the safety of our country with him running it." No, they're afraid for their own self-preservation because I have the feeling that Trump knows a lot of stuff about a lot of people.
Oh, I'm sure he knows. He's got a ton of dirt on people.
I think that's also people on the other end too. But yeah, it's like both ends of the spectrum.
I'm sure he visited Epstein's Island a couple of times.
You know what? There was a statement. There was a statement that they used to call it Hollywood land, and they talk about. We hear these actors and actresses talk about I like pizza, I like hot dogs. They're talking about young underage pizzas. Pizza's a girl. It used to be called Hollywood land.
What used to be called
Hollywood, and it had a lot to do with underage pedophilia and stuff like this. So you got to do some more research on it because I'm not. I really shouldn't have brought it up because I'm really not that.
No, go on. We like that kind of stuff.
So
pizza, hot dogs.
So pizza, it references a girl. Hot dog references a young boy. So supposedly, Trump said, "I like my girls young, but I like them of age."
Okay, I think he did actually say. I think I did.
And
I think I was there.
That was a reference to people that like their pizza and hot dogs.
Okay.
So he knows who likes pizza and hot dogs. And there was I wish I could remember the name. There was a female actress who wrote. She had a bunch of tweets about how much she loved pizza, and all the tweets were deleted.
Oh, well, I mean, he has made a lot of references to who is it, Prince Charles or which member of the royal family?
Prince Andrew. That dude's a creep.
Yeah,
you know he did some stuff. Yeah, I was watching
the Epstein Island thing.
No, I was watching the Windsors. CNN. Shocking, I watched CNN, but doing a documentary on the Windsors, and it has nothing to do with about him now, but when Prince Andrew's in some of it when he was younger, and I don't know really where I was going with that. Like his wife was a big time party girl and would hang out with like Epstein or something apparently. So I don't know. There's something creepy about him.
Absolutely.
Well, the royal family, I mean, their whole for the last 120 years existence has been how do we preserve ourselves? Keep ourselves from getting exposed. So I mean, they have enough leverage in the media to try to sweep that one under the rug real quick. Don't talk about that. Look over there.
Do you think they had Princess Diana killed?
Exactly.
Do you think they had Princess Diana killed? Do you think that?
I do.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I honestly
of course
don't.
we have no idea.
Right.
But yeah.
Would it shock me? No. But
honestly, it's one of those things that wouldn't shock me. And I'm very much like I believe Epstein killed himself. You know what I'm saying?
Do you?
Yeah. But I don't think I that's one I would question. It's one of the very few. I'm totally non-conspiracy theory. Like I don't but. It's one of those where I was like, you watch, and you're like, damn, they hated each other, and this bitch Queen Elizabeth really hated her. You know what I'm saying? And then she died simultaneously right after the divorce.
I mean, it could happen.
The driver was apparently drunk. The one time he was drunk. Okay.
Right.
Did you hear? Oh my God! I actually heard a conspiracy theory. This one will make you laugh, though. Did you ever see the reason that we've never seen a picture of Morgan Freeman when he's young? It's actually Jimi Hendrix and Morgan Freeman are one person.
Oh, that's...
have you seen that one?
No, I never saw that.
Like, you put the split screens of them next to each other. It's like, holy shit.
That's funny. But
that is a pretty heavy-duty one.
Yeah, I mean, going back to conspiracy, the one I hate the most, obviously, is the 9/11 one. And I know people that, that it was an inside job. Oh, my God. I mean, I know people. My mother knows people. There are people that, I don't know if they really believe it, or they just want to sound different and interesting in a sick way. Do you know what I mean?
But yes, but then when you start looking at like the things that they talk about, and you're like, you know what?
Like what? The way the building.
You know.
But we know it was like one video, and it was
listen,
heavily.
What I'm just saying is, and I'm just using because you brought this one up.
No, right.
Is when they present things, it does make you think. It's like, well, you know, what was the, and then you got to start thinking at the time. You'd have to go back. What would be the benefit for the, you know.
See, does it though? It makes you think. See, for me, at least on certain things, you just can't even entertain them, you know. And that's kind of, you know, the kind of way I am. Like,
well, yeah, there was some crazy,
but also I would think wouldn't that offend you, that one, like in particular? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Or do you feel like, well, maybe I owe it to the people who did die to look at it? Is that, I don't know. Do you even think that much about it? Or?
I don't think that much about it. I just know that it happened, and you know, 3,000 people died that day, and people continue to die from the illness. And if it was an inside job, then that's a real shame on this country. And if it wasn't,
I mean, I can't even entertain that.
You know,
but you know,
you know something. There's conspiracy theories about so many different things, from 9/11 to Pearl Harbor to Gulf of Tonkin.
There was a great movie with
the moon.
Oh, the moon landing. Yeah. Apollo 13. Apollo 13 was not Apollo 13.
Apollo 11.
No,
was it 11?
No, he's talking about I think some kind of
Capricorn 1. Capricorn 1 was with O.J. Simpson. And it's from the 70s, and it was it showed how the moon landing was staged, because a lot of people think the moon landing was staged. And it was a decent movie, actually. And then there was another movie called Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson. And it was kind of funny. It wasn't a comedy, but it was because he had all these, because he was a conspiracy theorist. And then, you know, he goes around talking about all these conspiracies, and then they grab him and they, you know, I guess they interrogate. It's been a long time since I saw the movie, so I don't remember exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine people still today really thinking that the moon, you know what I'm saying? Like, I could get it if you watched it maybe 50, 60, you know, whatever, in the 60s, you know, you're watching in 69 on your television with 3 channels or whatever.
Anyone who's
how do these people get up? You know what I'm saying? You look up at the moon and you're like, I don't even think it's, you know, real. You know what I'm saying? It's so unimaginable.
Anybody who's hung up on that conspiracy theory in 2020, it's like, okay, we've got enough. Like, get some new material. Like, get something else.
Like, you see Elon Musk with all the, you know, there's got to be some evidence at some point that convinces you. But I just wanted to talk about, you said you're not doing the consultant.
I am not. No. What happened was I picked up a last minute job. There was a rush call, so I picked up that acting gig, and it didn't kind of crosses into the time that Johnny wanted to.
So he's filming it? Or
he's going to film it. He's using James Rapper. You remember James from acting class? He was
yeah.
Yeah.
The guy that remembers every line.
Yes.
Yes. He's a funny guy. Okay. I could see him as
so he's going to be the therapist. Johnny obviously is going to be the consultant.
Yeah. I've written a lot more of it. I told him, I was like, you know, well, yeah, you can have the original, but like if you want some of the updated stuff, he didn't really want it. So I'm like, all right, you know. But
he's doing short.
No. I kind of rewrit that scene a bit, and then I've extended. You know, I didn't want to bother him with all the extended stuff, but you know, just you know, I had some pointers, and I don't know. He was like, no. I'm like, all right, you know, that's fine. But I wanted to enter it to like play. There's a play I written, and we just did it at this acting studio thing, and I was basically consultant. What did I try on your smile face earlier or whatever? But yeah, basically it was just a short play that me and him and I, something like that, did, and yeah, he was a psychiatrist. Essentially, I was this hitman that.
It's a good role for you.
Yeah, right. And that you know, kind of comes in. You know, he's having issues, but he's also, you know, the Tony Soprano kind of in the end still gonna, you know, do what he wants to do. You know, so. But yeah, I wanted to enter into like some, you know, theaters, and like Theater 3 always does this thing in September, but everything's been canceled. Everything's canceled. You know, screwed up. So. But that's good though. You're going on acting, you know. You're just booking them pretty much just online, just like
everything through Actors Access and Backstage. You know,
all right, that's good.
So I'm still waiting to get an agent.
Okay.
Is there any agents out there?
So what have you been doing for that? Like like that must be hard. That's the same thing. It's video. Like,
just videos. Everything's videos. And then like with a film that I got called in for, they were in a rush because the guy that had the part broke his knee.
Oh, okay.
So they needed somebody right away, and I applied, and that afternoon they got back and said, "Congratulations, you got the part."
Nice.
So, like I said, I don't know if I got it because they thought I was talented or because he's the first guy knocking at the door. Either way, I'm in.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Right. That's absolutely. Exactly. But either way, I'm in, and like I said, it's a nice role. I play the neighborhood icy guy. selling my ices, and it's not a background. It's a supporting role. So there's dialogue, and I have interaction with the main character. So and I'm throughout the movie. So I'm in like 4 or 5 scenes throughout the whole.
Oh, nice. And you still going to the acting class and stuff too?
I go to I still go to Chris's acting class on Thursdays, and then I take some online classes as well.
All right, nice. Yeah, I told you him and I had a little bit of a
little falling out. Yes, you had mentioned that.
I'll just go through it real quickly. I did a scene, and then he's like, "Oh, great job! That was great." And then it had to be physical a bit, so he's like, "Hit me in the head." So I like, just a little pop. And I guess I could see that there was like, it's like you asked me to hit you in the head, and I just like did my palm, and maybe it was a little hard. I just did what he said. I could see him; he's already so tan, you can't tell if he's getting angry or something.
Right.
So that, but it was like a subtle change, but I just kind of let it go. I'm like, all right, this is, and then I said, we go through it, and then he's like, hit me again in the head. So I just did it, and maybe I did it a little bit harder. Not intentionally. I don't exactly know, So you say, hit me in the head, I hit you in the head. And, he's not like he's an older guy, but he's in shape. He's done MMA fighting. So then he just whips around and like kicks me in the leg. Like it's hard, and then like runs off.
I would have fucking been after him. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Number one, you're in. So you're in like this small class.
It's
like,
small.
And it's like a little, little stadium seating of like a few rows.
But still, like, you're hitting him because you're doing an acting scene, and he just sucker punches you. Like, what
sucker
the fuck?
Kicked me in the shit. It was so gay and such a bitch move that I started laughing. I couldn't comprehend it. Like I was like, did you just kick? I was and in front of him. I'm looking. Did he just kick me in the leg? Like, did that just happen? And then he's like, yeah. And then he starts going, oh, you ever hit me like that? I'll fucking kill you. Oh my God.
Like that? Why you ran away? Like,
yeah. I'm like, you literally sprinted after you kicked me and ran away back to your seat behind your desk. And then I'm just looking at him, saying like the lights are like blind. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I'm looking. I'm like, did he just? I'm like, are you out of your mind? I just started laughing. I couldn't. It was so. And I'm like, there's this older guy, and what am I? You know what I'm saying? So I kept asking. I'm like, did I do something? Like it was so. I couldn't comprehend it.
Like that is.
I just told him to go F himself, and I was like, just give me my money back. And I was like, I'm gone.
Well, good for you, because you were the better man in that situation.
Yeah. Well, then he started trying to be like, all right, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Just go back and do your scene. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do the fucking scene again, you psychopath. Like you kind of shot that one. But we have like what, maybe like 10, 15 minutes, 10 minutes left or so. Do you have any cop stories? Just out of curiosity.
Not really.
No, 20 years? You don't have anything?
You know what?
That might actually be a good thing in this day and age.
A bulb up his ass or one of those?
One of those.
Anything. You tell me. Like, did you, like, a chase and, like you said, and you're just like, oh, fuck it, and just went and got a donut or something like that?
No. No, I don't. You know, I never really talked about the job when I was on it. So a lot of the stories I had, they're all kind of gone because I never talked about them, so I don't really remember them.
All right.
People were telling me. My buddy was telling me. Apparently, I told him a story that when I was a rookie, some kids threw a bottle at me, but it didn't break. So I picked it up and I threw it back at them. Well, I don't remember doing that, but he said I did.
There you go. All right, that's something. That's something.
All
right. Well, I guguess it's a good way. Can I ask you? Did you ever draw your gun in 20 years?
All the time. My gun was always out. I never fired it. But
it was just for show or. What?
No, I would have guys on the wall waiting.
You hear a lot of guys never draw their gun, but is that not true?
No, it depends on where you work. I mean, I was working in a precinct that was the second deadliest precinct in the whole city.
Well, I was going to say my cousin works in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn nowadays. He put himself there.
Right.
But I also have a friend that I went to high school with. My friend Kevin's in the 1st precinct for Suffolk County, and he said, yeah, he's had to pull his gun every single week that he's been on the job. So.
Right.
I would imagine that at some point, no matter what precinct or county you're in, you're going to have to deal with that.
But never fired it. Or maybe it's they never fired it. Maybe they pulled it. Yeah. That's because otherwise,
listen, I mean, things have changed, but, you get 30,000 cops on a job. The amount of cop shootings is relatively small.
Right.
Based on.
Well, in terms of like total shooting death, it's like less than 1% or something,
Yeah, I don't know what the stats are, but,
Okay. Well, it's good that you were fortunate enough to never have to.
But no, my gun was out all the time.
So what kind of typical situation? Like, how would you know if you're threatened enough? If you know what I'm saying? Like how come you never shot? You never really felt?
Because the person
didn't let him get close enough?
complied. I didn't let him get, or they complied. I had one instance where I came very, very close to pulling the trigger. There was a guy. We were in the house. He was nuts. He had 2 knives. And he was Nah, you say that.
No, I
But
can't.
he was far enough away
Right.
at the moment that he didn't necessarily pose a threat.
Right.
But he could have covered it was less than 21 feet, which is what they say is the safe zone for someone with a knife. It takes them 21 feet. 21 feet or less, they'll get to you with the knife.
Okay.
Even before you pull your gun and pull the trigger, they'll get to you with the knife. So he was less than 21 feet, but he was still far enough away. But the problem was his wife was standing behind him.
Okay.
It was kind of so we were in the living room. He went down like a hallway, and the hallway kind of curved a little bit, kind of like the microphone here. So as I'm looking at him, his wife is here, and he's in front of me. So I got to risk if I took a shot that.
But are you worried about her? Like, was he threatening her at all?
No. He was just holding us. He was going nuts. He was holding us off with the knives. He wasn't going to let us arrest him because he had the knives.
Right.
But eventually. He put the knives down.
That's good.
Yes, if his wife wasn't standing behind him, is there a chance I would have shot? There's a good chance I would have.
Now, the 21 feet thing seems a little like. Are you supposed to calculate it out? Or you're a rough distance.
No, I mean.
But wait, you said now if you're within 21 feet, they can get to you before you pull the trigger.
Before you pull your gun,
like if you don't have it out, if it's holstered.
I believe so. Yeah. So that 21 feet.
21 feet. I'm trying to think. That's what 7 yards.
That's probably
literally
15 or out there. So
yeah, that's not a lot.
So
that's
so
not
by
a
the time you
huge
pull your
distance,
gun,
that's if you
and
don't
pull
have
the
it
trigger.
out.
Plus the other thing
them.
is if
so wait, so you got to shoot right away then if they're armed and under 21 feet? Like if you know what I'm saying?
Well, you have to assess the situation.
No, yeah.
Well,
in any situation, but
right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, so if I don't know, I'm asking too much theoretically, but so if they're under 21 feet and they got a weapon, are they saying essentially get your gun out as quickly as possible and shoot them because your life is in danger?
No, they're not saying to shoot him. They're saying is that under 21 feet,
he can get to you.
He can get to you with the knife.
To me, that sounds like shoot him, right?
Yeah, but here's the other thing.
What I'm saying?
Yeah, but you say that. Wait, let me finish. Depending on the type of gun you have, you're charging at me. I shoot you. You still have forward momentum.
No, right. That's what I'm saying. I'd shoot you as soon as.
But that doesn't stop you from. That still doesn't stop you from getting stabbed.
No, but you got to.
If I'm charging you,
well, then you're shit out of luck.
And the other thing is, the most inaccuracy in shooting is less than 7 yards.
Yeah.
So you have to
ask you that
at that point, really,
there's video of cops shooting right and missing.
Because what happens is, on 7 yards like that, all you're doing is pulling. You don't have time to line up the sights.
Right.
So you're pulling and squeezing the trigger in the hopes that you are lined up.
Right.
When you're further away, I have time to line up my sights and line up the shot.
Would you actually be better off in that situation? Maybe pulling a baton or just trying to
you know what?
Tackle a guy? What do you do?
Again, these are individual choices that you got to make, and a lot of it has to do with training or lack thereof. It's an individual.
That's the
decision.
thing you hear discussed now is how much the cops don't have enough training. That's shocking to me.
They don't, because apparently what I was told, and again it could be just one of those urban legends in the police department, was they used to teach full-on boxing. Now boxing, first off, boxing is not a self-defense sport. It's an offensive sport with defensive technique, but it's not for self-defense.
Yeah.
Was that they were doing the boxing, full-on boxing, and somebody went home and complained, and then the mother called up and they squashed to complain at their son. I'm assuming it was, that's the story, was that they did the boxing. He must have had a black guy come home, so I got him boxing, and that was the end of the boxing.
Mom, did you get hurt on the job? Well,
you would think it would be a domestic violence thing, but it's just the kid came home and his mom complained.
So.
But what you're saying, it's incredible to me that you haven't shot somebody, right? Isn't it
that's pretty crazy.
And to do work that out, well, it's, he's relatively close. I know I only have a few.
You have to.
And without a lot of training,
assess everything.
Even more impressive.
How long were you on the job when this happened? How many years were you?
I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 years.
So you had some experience, but I still don't think that's
a
lifetime of experience. I mean, at that point, you're still probably learning. I mean,
well, you're always learning, and every situation changes. Very quickly, if he would have come charging out, we would have fired it, and
hope for the best
and
try to get out of the way as he falls.
Well, that's
forward
it. You have to know how to move, and that's why if they would teach a little bit more self-defense, martial arts. I mean, listen, is all martial arts practical for the street? No. Are there aspects of martial arts that are especially the BJJ? You get knocked to the ground, you got to get off the ground and you know.
Yeah, you see that a lot, especially nowadays. There's so many big guys out there too. You know,
Right.
Well, that's like
scary.
We talk about it all the time, but like the first fights that they had with MMA, where they had you can have any fighting style. You can box, you can use karate, you can use Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Royce Gacy used to literally just take people down with Brazilian jiu-jitsu and just tap everybody out. They would just tap out no matter how big they were.
Right.
The toughest guy he had to fight was Dan Severn because he knew how to wrestle him.
Right.
But the other problem you have there is you get a big, you get Gracie. I don't think he's much, probably not much bigger than me.
Right.
But you get a big 400, not 400 pounds. But you get a big heavy 200s. It's not working.
Yeah. I mean, he was an expert. I mean, he did fight people that were probably in that class, but I mean, he would tap them. But he's a freaking expert black belt. I mean,
but you're not. You get that guy on you that's 250, 275 pounds. It's not going to be easy to throw.
Yeah, I'm not easy to shrug off.
You know what I mean?
Right. So I'm pushing 255.
Especially if they're pissed.
So.
And the other thing is, if you're first off, you got to do the technique because I studied a little bit of BJJ. If you're getting punched, in the classroom, there's no punching. It's all just technique. But in MMA, there is. So now you're getting punched in the head. You have to try to make room so that you can either squeeze out of there or toss him off. It's
just not gonna be feasible.
In the street, it's you don't want to get, whether you know how to fight or not in the ground. You don't want to get taken to the ground.
Yeah, I would imagine.
That's a bad look. All right. Well, it was a pleasure, Frank.
No, I had a good time.
2 hours is up. Well, it goes by pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
It always does. This was a good one. I like this one.
All right. So, Rob and Josh, and again, with our special guest,